Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Black Spitter Music Podcast. On today's episode, we are going to be doing our very famous countdowns of albums per year. This year, we're doing 1994, a subject that Mark Alden Taylor, right over here, came up with last week. So we said, yeah, let's do 1994. So what we'll be doing is we're going to be doing our top 10s plus five honorable mentions for this. Also joining us joining me today on the panel is Mark Alden Taylor from the BS Sessions with Mark Jury and Charles Trainer, and also he DJs on that metal station on Tuesdays, on Tuesday evenings. More about that metal station in just a moment. How's it going, Mark?
And also the Freeform Rock podcast, man, the original one that started it all. Well,
Yes.
actually, some assholes started me in podcasting, but we're not getting into that one.
No,
But thank you for letting me on here, and I'm so sorry. I forgot we were doing this. I texted you yesterday. So what? Because I wanted to say it on the air. So what are you doing tomorrow on your thing? And he said, "Don't you remember we're doing 94? It was your idea." Oh yeah. So during the show last night, when I was just making my list.
And also joining us today is the great Mike Tyler, the head honcho of that metal station. And you can catch his shows on Friday nights. Sometimes he's got his brothers on there with him. Sometimes
there's my regular co-host Bill Roseberry, also known as Bildo, and then a lot of times my big brother Scapegoat, who also does a lot of the graphic designs for the website and the station.
Yeah.
We're kind of going through a transitional period here in a bit. So there's going to be more things done with the site and stuff. And I'm planning on adding more DJs. One of the other co-owners, he's going to be stepping down because he's just got a lot of personal issues going on and stuff. And but I have someone who I think I can probably keep the lights on my own, but there is someone that Mark knows who is probably going to be my partner. I guess I'm really the chairman of the board for real now. I mean, he's always nicknamed me that.
Does this guy like me?
He does.
Okay, cool. I was getting fearful I was going to get thrown off the station or cut to an hour.
No, you're fine for now anyway. No, all joking around aside though, man. So I got that going on. Plus the plug podcast with Bushy, who's one of my DJs right now, though. We haven't done a new episode yet because things are just kind of crazy, but I need to talk with him too, because I think there needs to be some, I don't want to say changes, but we need to kind of streamline things a little bit more and be more consistent. And that's not just on him. That's me too. It's just
what you guys should do is what I do is that I have like 7 episodes in the can. So every week an episode comes out just in case emergencies happen.
Well, the thing is, I've sent Bushy some extra content. Like one of the things that I've got is the old podcast I used to do with an old DJ we had here called DJ Mac. I don't know, James McCormick. You might know,
I know
him,
James.
Mark. Yeah. And
Australia, right?
Yeah. No, Irish.
Oh yeah, that guy.
And he and I said, well, hey man, if we ever get, just put those out there with the preface saying, hey, this is an old episode that Mike did. Because I was doing podcasting on a different podcast before I joined Bushy. So, but I don't know. I'll talk to him if he's Bushy. If you're listening, we need to talk, man. So, anyway,
it's so hard to get a hold of now, man.
Yeah, he's well, and to be honest with you, I haven't really reached out with him either. I've just been busy with work and everything else. You know how it is, guys. Real life gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah, I was trying to get him on a couple podcast episodes and he wasn't answering me, so I got somebody else. So
yeah, he's been busy with his job too, and he's been working a lot as well.
Yeah,
and it's hard to get a hold of him right now. But he is on that metal station every other Saturday. Mornings.
I think this Saturday's on.
That's a really great way to wake up with Bushy in the morning. So that's always a good time with his choice of music. All right, guys, are y'all about ready to go?
I think so.
Of 1994. After that, we will reveal our 5 honorable mentions. We'll go Mark, Mike, and then me, and until we're done. That's gonna be fascinating. 1994 was just a great year in music. There was so much stuff coming out. In the world of rock, of course, we all know rock has a huge umbrella that stretches out to so many different forms of music. But also country was an all-time high, as well, and hip hop and rap as well were also kind of going on the decline because I think their greatest time was in the late 80s, early 90s. But grunge had already fizzled out. But that does not mean that those bands that are called grunge stopped. They really did progress more and make better albums as they went on. So let's see if those albums are going to be talked about. Let's go, Mark. What do you got for number 10?
Number 10, Charles Trainor's probably going to go, fucker. Oasis, definitely, maybe. I love that album back then. I've always told Charles this is my favorite Oasis album. After that, they lost me a little bit with the weird shit they were doing. But I love Rock and Roll Star, Supersonic, all great songs on this fucking album. It's like a rock album, dude. It's like English fucking rock. I like it.
Yeah, that was their breakout album, pretty much, right? Don't you think? Yeah. I think that was their breakout album, which introduced pretty much Oasis to the rest of the world. What do you got at number 10, Mike?
Well, I've got kind of an unconventional choice. My list, I have to be honest with you, is I am DJ Metal Mike for a reason.
Yep.
And 94 was a huge year for me as far as I was 23 going on 24 when a lot of these records came out.
Yep.
And some of these bands, I literally went to see some of them on touring together. So it was like combination of that. And just, I have a lot of great memories of hanging out with my buddies and just rocking out to all this stuff. I'm sorry to say Oasis just never really did anything for me. And maybe I should give them a chance because there's other people that I do like and admire and they really liked the band. I just was like, man, these guys want to be the Beatles so bad. It just kind of turned me off.
They admitted it though. They said they want to be
that's fine. But I'm just like, if I want to listen to the Beatles, I'll listen to the fucking Beatles.
Well, they ain't the Beatles.
No, they ain't a pimple in the ass of the fucking Beatles.
No,
Sorry,
they're
Charles.
not.
Sorry,
no,
Charles.
He agrees with you on that though.
Yeah. So anyway, with that being said, this is an unconventional choice because it's not one artist on the album. It's not really a compilation album, though, like a greatest hits. It's Nativity in Black, a tribute to Black Sabbath. I absolutely adored this album when it came out. I mean, Black Sabbath, as anybody knows, my all-time favorite band. I missed your Black Sabbath episode, which just breaks my heart. And I'm like, man, but this is, I remember when it came out. Yeah. I mean, you got After Forever by Biohazard that just did an amazing job. You got Children of the Grave by White Zombie, Paranoid by Megadeth, Supernaut by 1,000 Homo DJs, which is a side project of Al Jorgensen from Ministry, Iron Man with Ozzy doing it with Therapy, Lord of this World by Corrosion of Conformity, Symptom of the Universe by Sepultura. And then you had the Bullring Brummies, which had Geezer Butler and Rob Halford, plus the guitar player was one of Rob's bands, Fight. Just a phenomenal cover right there. They did The Wizard. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath by Bruce Dickinson and Godspeed. NIB by Ugly Kid Joe, which I know.
Didn't they do Primus? I thought Primus did that with Ozzy, didn't he?
They did, but that was on the second one.
Oh, because that's
one.
No offense. I like that version better than the original. The bass,
dude. That version. Well, come on, it's Les Claypool.
Yeah.
So but I mean, this one, I'm not a big. Sorry, Aaron Camaro. I know you love him, but I'm not really a big Ugly Kid Joe fan. So it's like, War Pigs by Faith No More, and then Typo Negative's version of Black Sabbath. And one of the things I thought was interesting about a lot of these covers is I'm a big believer that if you're going to do a cover, it's just like if someone's going to do a remake of a famous film. I want you to put your stamp on that film, kind of like way, what's his name? John Carpenter, when he did The Thing, he put his stamp on it. Totally different from A Thing from Another World. Both of them great movies, just like David Cronenberg did with The Fly. I mean, I love the original, but man, that remake, and it was just totally different. Yeah, I loved it. So, and that's what I love about Typo Negative's version of Black Sabbath and some of these other covers, man. Oh, by far, man. And it's just a phenomenal. I felt it was a great tribute album. Nativity in Black and 2 is really cool too, but we're not talking about the year 2000. We're talking about.
I know. I thought it was. I didn't know about that album. I just know Primus did NIB.
Yeah, Primus is on the second one. Yeah, and that's fucking. I need
to get version of that to play on the show. I love that version.
I can hook you up, dude.
Okay, cool.
The only thing that I did not like about that one was the version of War Pigs by Faith No More. It was live, and Mike
Yeah.
kind of overdid it and played
Well, he
around.
all went blah 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 blah, which kind of pissed me off.
Yeah,
Man. It's like you don't
exactly.
do
I
that
was
to
like,
Black
yeah.
Sabbath, dude. You know.
No, but the rest of it, man, it was awesome.
It was,
really
man.
was
And man, me and my buddies, we used to fucking jam this and smoke our weed and have so much fun. And
In 94, dude, I quit In and Out in 93 because my grandma got dementia and my car broke down. So I was just sitting at home. My grandma's giving me money. I was taking care of her, like making dinner, doing this, and that. I was just sitting at home getting stoned, and my grandma gave me enough money to go buy CDs. So most of these CDs are CDs that I was just sitting in my house, just listening to or driving in the car, doing things for my grandma. Yeah. So
is that why you picked 94, Mark?
Yeah, it was a cool year because I just sat and listened to music, you know.
Right.
Like you try to listen to music now, you're on your headphones, you're sitting there on Facebook at the same time, you're kind of missing. Sometimes I kind of just want to get an iPod, so I don't play with like a regular iPod, so I don't play with the phone.
Well, it just depends. Sometimes I listen to music while I'm doing stuff online.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just sit and chill and just listen to the album. Sometimes with my headphones on, sometimes not, because I got both speakers for my computer. So sometimes I crank it. It just depends, you know, on what I got going on.
Yeah, well, for me, when I'm watching a ball game, I put the ball game on mute and I'll throw on some music.
Well, here's something funny.
That's what I like to do.
When I do my live show on Friday nights, a lot of times there'll be Cardinal games, and Bill will turn on the Cardinal game while we're on doing our radio thing, which is hilarious.
When the Dodgers were playing the Cardinals that one night, I think we were both on your show.
Yeah, you are
going at it.
But in 1994, I was 19, going on 20, and I had my own car. I had a job. And my friends and I, and one of them I had asked to be on here because me and him went to these tours. We bought these albums together. We listened to them together, and we did a lot of things. So, you know, it's very different when we do like the 70s top 10 and stuff like that. It's different when you're doing 1994 when you're
we lived it. We all lived it, and that's why.
Yeah,
that's the
we were in the middle.
That's why I said this is a weird year for me, and that's why I picked it.
I love, you know, the 70s stuff. I grew up on it. Some of it's in my DNA because I was just a little guy. I mean, I was born in 1970, like Mark, a day before Mark.
Yep.
So
he's a day older than me.
Yes, exactly. Sir. Yeah, and it's like, you know, so some of it is in my DNA, you know, some of it was from records my parents played. And then my big brother bringing home Kiss Alive. And then my surrogate big brother, the guy that lived across the street from me, and my older cousin, they're the ones that introduced me to all the other bands because we were so obsessed with Kiss. They were like, guys, there's other bands besides Kiss. Right. That's when I got introduced to Sabbath and Zeppelin and Aerosmith and Ted Nugent and Rush and just so many awesome, amazing bands from that era. And it kind of just, yeah, so, and ever since then, I've been into hard rock and heavy metal. So
right, but this was our year. This was our time. This was us. And I'm going to start off with the second concert I ever went to, and this was down in Corpus Christi, and we went to go see this band, and they tore it up. Since then, I've seen them 3 more times. Rubberneck by the Toadies.
I knew you were going to pick that one, dude.
Did you really?
Now. Yeah, you and Kate always talk about the Toadies, dude.
Really great.
I read your comments and stuff.
I like that song, Tyler. That's a good jam.
Tyler's a really good jam, but this also has Possum Kingdom. There were 4 singles that were released off this debut album. I came from the water, and there was another one, but this was a really good album. This was their debut, and they're out of the Dallas area.
So, a buddy of mine, he had that album. That's how I got turned on to the Toadies. Was because of that record. I'd go riding around with him, and we'd be jamming out. And I was like,
"They're still playing? Is it all the same original members, or
no? There's just the lead singer and lead guitar player are the original.
There was only 3 in there, right?
There were 4.
4? Oh, I thought it was a trio.
No, there was 4.
Oh, okay. But yeah,
but
like
what a phenomenal band. Yeah. I followed them for a while, and then of course, you start to listen. You don't listen as much, but man, when that album came out, that was the talk all around, especially in Texas, because they toured a lot around here. So that's my number 10. That's what I'm going to kick it off with. Mark, number 9.
Number 9. I also want to say about 1994. I didn't go to many shows. I was bumming it. But my grandma did get me tickets to Pink Floyd, the Division Bell tour, which was phenomenal at the Rose Bowl. But I was pissed off the whole concert because my friend brought ragweed. He didn't get good shit. I couldn't get stoned to Pink Floyd. I'm still pissed off about that. But 94 has got a lot of weird memories. I'll keep going through them as we get through this. But my next one, this is an album I really didn't get till like 20 years later. But it has to be on the list. I took another band off the list that I was listening to back then and had a relationship with. But the relationship I have with Motley 94 is that I heard on the radio on KNEC.com, KNEC down here in Long Beach metal station, that Vince Neil that got fired from Motley Crue. And I was like, what the fuck? Because they just came out with that Decade of Decadence with Primal Scream. I said, oh, fuck, Motley Crue's going fucking hard. Listen to Primal Scream, man. And they did go hard, if you think about it. 94, man, with John Corabi. That's a fucking underrated fucking album that everybody, including me, is getting into, because I looked at it at Tower Records. I saw it. It was on sale. It was like $9.99 or $7.99. I looked at it. Oh, it's Motley Crue. Should I get it? No, fuck. Vince Neil ain't it. I put it back several times and never bought it. I wish I bought it that one time, but that's my number 9.
All right, cool. You know what? That album, people love it. I just cannot get into that Motley Crue album. I've tried I don't know how many times. I just can't get into it. But what about you, Mike? What do you think about Motley Crue 94?
I got to be blunt, man. At the time, I could give 0 fucks. I didn't care because, and Mark can tell you this, man, when it came to for me and Motley Crue, my albums was Too Fast for Love and Shout the Devil. And then after that, I was like, oh, there's a good song here or there, but a lot of filler, to the point to where I didn't even give Corabi Crew, as I call it, because it's not really a Motley Crue album. Now, I'm not putting it down. I actually like that record. I do. Oh. I'm like you, Mark. I didn't discover it till years later. And then I'm like, man, this is pretty fucking good, man. But and if you listen to the Decibel Geeks album Unleashed, they did an excellent 2-part episode where they interviewed John about the album. Oh. And even they were thinking about changing the name of the band. But you know how it is, the music business, your promoters, your record company, your managers, they got their fingers in that pie. And Motley Crue by that point was a brand, and they didn't want to stray from it. And then later, when the album, and when the album didn't do that great, they're like, yeah, we probably should have listened to you and changed the name of the band. John was like, you fucking think, so I do like it. It's kind of on my honorable mentions, even though it was not on my radar in 94. I could give 0 shits about Motley Crue at that time. I have to be honest.
Oh man, when it came out in 94, we were all so excited because it was a new Motley Crue with a new singer. And just everybody around me loved it, and it just did not connect with me.
Didn't connect with you at all, huh?
No, and it still has it, because with all this podcasting that we do and all the talks that we do in different chat rooms, I've given it another go, and I just can't get into it. But what's your number 9, Mike?
My number 9 is Biohazard, State of the World Address. I absolutely loved this album when it came out. I know sometimes, because they were kind of like a combination of like hardcore punk and rap metal. And that's what I dug about them. Just really cool album, a lot of cool vibes. I know to some people, that's not real metal because it was rap. Hey, whatever, man. I liked it. Still do like Biohazard. Like, I thought their cover of After Forever on the previously mentioned album, Nativity in Black, was amazing. And I've always dug Biohazard. And also I got warm memories because I saw them live in a tour with 2 other bands that were on this tour who are on this list. So I will not mention.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a great show at a venue called, at the time, it was called the American Theater there in St. Louis, man. A really, really old theater. I think it's called the Orpheum now, which was the original name, but they've kind of taken it and cleaned it up. They don't really have shows like that anymore, which is a shame. I mean, this place was like old school, had gargoyles and statues all over the place, just had a great atmosphere, man. And I went to so many amazing shows at this venue. Just a lot of fond memories. That's why 94, I'm like, interesting year, because I was like, I got some cool stories to tell. And that was one of them, man. Just a phenomenal show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my number 9.
Yeah, when we went to go see the Toadies, it's so funny because they were the second to the last band, and man, they just came off the stage, were pumped up, and then after that was the Butthole Surfers,
Ah, I
and,
like them.
and it was like completely different music,
Yeah. Oh yeah, Butthole
Came
Surfers are.
on with keyboards and techno, and people started, throwing crap, and they were upset because we just got off such a big high from the Toadies, and then everything just slowed down to a halt.
Yeah. That's
But
an
the
odd
rest
pairing
was
though.
like-
The Toadies and the Butthole Surfers. I don't
Yeah.
know who put that
Who
package
put that together because that was.
But it is funny because Ozzy said one time, Ozzy Osbourne in an interview, that he's like, it's weird how things have changed. Now they package tours and even festivals, like they'll do all metal or all alternative. He's like, back in the 70s, man, he goes, it wasn't unusual to see Black Sabbath sharing the stage with Fleetwood Mac or the Eagles or even whatever, because it was like, because they were just wanting to play in front of a crowd. So they didn't care, Sabbath didn't care. So they did share. I mean, they did share the stage with some really heavy bands, but they also shared the stage with, but I'm like, hell, man, I would have loved to have seen the Eagles and Black Sabbath or Fleetwood Mac and Black Sabbath. That would have ruled, So
that would have been awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there was a thing where very nearly where I live, which was called the MRF, the Mississippi River Festival, where they would have, I mean, man, everybody who's anybody played there, and it was a great thing. It was like free. People could come but then, people started getting drunk and getting rowdy and getting in a fight. So they stopped having it, man. It was before my time though. But when I was a little kid, it was going on. So that would have been amazing. Cause you name them, they played there.
Yeah. My number 9 is going to be a album that was really, really big in 1994. Mark probably is going to call it trendy, but when it came out, I wasn't a big fan of it at all. I didn't become a big fan of this album until maybe a few months ago, when I really started to appreciate this band a little bit more. I've had this ever since I bought it when it came out. It's the same one I've had since 1994. And I just rarely played it. And then I popped it in a few months ago. And then I popped it in again for this show. It's going to be Soundgarden, Super Unknown.
Nice.
As my number 9. When we talk about the big four in grunge, we talk about, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Nirvana, and Pearl Jam. But they're also different.
Yes.
They all have their own different sound, even their own little genre. And this is pretty much heavy metal when it came out. And it's psychedelic heavy metal, maybe even a little proggy in parts.
Got a lot of doom metal on that album too.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely think out of the 4 of the grunge, and by far they were my favorite, figure, was Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, so I definitely agree with that. It's on my honorable mention.
Yeah, but man, this was, even I think we did a show on the BS sessions where I wasn't a big fan of the Black Hole Sun song.
Yeah.
And now that I'm thinking about it, now that I hear it in the context of the album, it does sound a little bit better the way, instead of the song by itself, but within the album, where it kind of slows down and gives a little heavy psychedelic to it. So
that's a total Beatles love song, dude.
Yeah,
I'm surprised it took you that long to get into it.
You're a huge Beatles fan. Did take me long, and I'm very surprised that it did click with me the first time, because I could have had so many chances to go see these guys. I just said, "Nah, it's all right," and now I'll never get to see them. But my
favorite Soundgarden song is on that album.
This really did grab it. This really did grab me recently. So, I've always liked the up on the down on the upside better, but recently this has really been.
That album was a letdown when it came out to me. Down on the Upside, Pretty Noose was good, but the whole album as a whole was kind of not as complete as that one to me.
And now I do have the 45 of Spoonman, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
I have the 45 of that. But that's my number 9 is Soundgarden, Super Unknown.
Right on.
What's your
number 8, man? Sitting at home taking care of my grandma. I was getting tired of listening to all this alternative shit. And one of the bands that I got into because of the song Pull Me Under, I saw they released a new album. And I go, oh, fuck, they got a new album. And I heard freaking that fucking first video, Lie, or what was it, Lie? I don't know. I'm little drunk, but Awake, man, because my favorite song on that album is Caught in a Web. Fucking love that song. But the first video, man, what was the first video where they're like on the New York Bridge and shit? I can't remember the name of the song.
I don't know.
That I saw they had a new album out and they put out that video, and I got the album. It's a fucking masterpiece of fucking prog metal, man.
Who is this?
Dream Theater, Awake.
Oh, Dream Theater, okay.
Awake. Fucking that album was like, damn. Like the album before that, Images and Words is great, but they got harder on this album. I fucking loved it. Awake. It's my number 8.
You know, with them, they've got so much music, I think, that there's so much to listen to from them. And I know that you and Will Toth and Al and a bunch of people love this band. I should really try to get into them a little bit more.
Well, if you like prog, like Floyd
Yeah,
or Queensryche, or like stuff like hard, like Queensryche proggy with like Operation Mindcrime, you'd like them. They do have a couple weak albums, and one of them was pretty bad. But I don't like the first album without James LeBray as a singer. I don't like that one as much. But when they got into my thing is with Images and Words, fucking great album right there.
Yeah,
Metropolis is a fucking masterpiece. But that's my number 8.
Number 8, Mike.
Yeah, well, to get on the Dream Theater thing, they're kind of always been like hit and miss with me. I obviously respect their musicianship though, and I had a buddy of mine, Tim Summers. Now, Tim, he was a musician, and hey, Tim, if you're out there, sometimes he's on Facebook and we still talk. He was a big fan of a lot of the music I liked. You know, I love the heavy stuff, and he loved Dream Theater. Another band he would always try to get me to y'all check this out, and he'd play it for me, and they never grabbed me. And it's somebody that Mark really, really likes a lot, and I'm always like, man, what's wrong with me? Because Tim just loved both these bands, and one was Dream Theater, which, like I said, I like some of their stuff, and the other one was Extreme, which I could just never. I don't know. There's something there. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's Gary Cherone. Something bothers me about them.
That's like me with Slayer and King Diamond. Most of my friends on Facebook love that, and I'm like going, I tried, fellas, and Ghost. Yeah. I just can't get into them, man.
Right. And that's okay, you know. Yeah. So anyway, number 8, Rollins Band. Wait, Henry Rollins, the Black Flag. Love that album. Went to see this tour, and it was really a great show. Same venue too. All these shows I'm telling you about was all in the same venue, man. It's just a magical time for me, because when I was younger, my parents were weird. They'd let me have the records. They'd let me have the posters. But if I wanted to go to any of the concerts, you're not going there. There's going to be drugs. There's going to be delay. Yeah, you're not going. So I didn't get to go to a concert till I was like 17, almost 18 years old, you know? So, but after that, I went to every show I could get to. And this show, it was Rollins Band, Helmet.
Oh yeah.
Damn.
And Sausage. Now, Sausage was the original Primus. Sausage was Les Claypool's band before it became Primus. And what he did is, because he made it with Primus, and the other guys in Sausage, you know, they went and had families and did adulting. But he went back to him and said, hey, man, you want to do an album and a tour? Because, you know, I got the money now because he's successful with Sausage, right? So, Primus. So they did an album and they did a tour on that, and it was amazing. It was an amazing show, man. I mean, all 3 bands killed it. The only thing that sucked about it is the American Theater's air conditioner was broke, and it was so fucking hot in the pit. I got dehydrated, man, bad. But man, what an amazing show! What an amazing show, and what a great album, man. I mean, just right off the bat with Disconnect to the whole thing, it's just in my opinion, it's probably my favorite Rollins Band album besides End of Silence. Just fucking love it, man. That's my number 8.
Yeah, that was his big. That was his big solo album.
Right. Yeah, he had a few albums before that though, and like I said, the End of Silence, I think it was the one before it, and I love that album too.
Yeah,
but I've seen Rollins live a few times. He was phenomenal.
Oh, wow. I've never got to see him. The last time he came here to Houston, it was more of a spoken word concert.
Oh, cool. But
that he was doing.
an aside to that, though, I actually got to meet him in that show because my buddy Brian, we call him Big B because he's big dude, man. He pegged it right because he was like, man, if we get there early enough, dude, I bet Rollins will come out and talk to us if it's just like a few of us. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. Well, we're hanging out, and sure as shit, man.
Wow.
Henry comes out and just walks up and goes, hey guys, how's it going? Shook our hands and stuff. And we just started talking music. He's like, have you guys had a chance to see Prime or Sausage? And we talking about how big of Primus fans we were. And he took pictures with us. And I still have it to this day. It's a photo where Henry's taking a selfie with one of them like disposable cameras. And he's pulling all the way back and I'm standing right next to him, just grinning ear to ear. It was just a great time, great memory. He was such a super nice guy. I met Les Claypool and the guys from Helmet, and they were super nice. And I met Helmet twice though, because the last time they were here in St. Louis, Paige Hamilton, he after the show, he just came right off the stage and just talked to us and signed our stuff, and really, really class act, man. But yeah, Rollins band weight.
Rollins looks like he would be a cool dude, you know?
Yeah.
Because I've seen several documentaries with him.
Mm-hmm.
Or like different places where
he's like the D. Schneider of punk.
Yeah.
Well, he's very personable, and the thing I love about him, he's a fan. You know, he is a fan too. He never had that me, the big rock star punk god. You know, he wasn't like that at all. He was just very much like, you know, just real down to earth, just real cool dude.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, I'm just saying, like he speaks for punk, like D. Schneider speaks for 80s metal.
Yeah.
And I believe he's from the DC area, right? Before he moved.
Well, yeah, he was best friends with the guy who Fugazi and Fugazi. What was his other band?
A Minor Threat.
Minor Threat. Yeah, they were best friends. And I mean, you know, with his spoken words thing, I mean, the one he had where he was talking about working in a pet store with bun. It was hilarious, man. I don't know if you ever seen it, but it was so funny, man. He's a very funny guy too. I've never got to see his spoken words live though. It's something I'm going to have to do because that's pretty much all he does now. I don't think he does music.
No, he doesn't do music anymore. No.
Yeah.
He acts a lot too. He was in Sons of Anarchy. And
he's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he really has been in a lot of stuff as an actor. And I forgot, you know what? He was also on Heat, if you remember.
Yeah.
The one with Robert De Niro.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, he's been in
a very small role.
Yeah, he's been in a few movies. And what was interesting, I don't know if you guys know this, but he was the inspiration for the character Negan in The Walking Dead.
Oh.
And he actually tried out for that part and almost got it. Jeffrey D. Morgan beat him out, but the artist admitted, I modeled him after Henry.
Oh, that show went downhill so fast.
It did.
After they killed Glenn, the show was over. That's it.
Well, it kind of went down and then it got better again. You know, I was still watching it, even though I was starting to lose patience with it. It got better towards the end. But it did dip in quality.
I watched the first 2 episodes of that new show with Jeffrey G. Morgan and the chick that killed her husband. I wouldn't hang out with somebody who killed my husband. I'm sorry. But the thing is, that show was kind of boring. I didn't like it. But
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, you might like it. I don't know. But
I read the graphic novels too. So, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
My next pick, this is going to be for Jerry. Jerry, this one's for you. My number 8 is Pink Floyd's Division Bell. It's a really good album by them. I like it a lot better than Momentary Lapse of Reason and also The Final Cut. This is a really good album by them. I love it. So
I think that's one of Bushy's favorite Pink Floyd albums.
Oh, it is. He came on the show when we were doing a thing on that album, and he was getting on me because I hated it.
Oh, you don't like that record?
No, I like Momentary Lapse of Reason. I only like High Hopes on that album, I think. That's the only song I like on that.
Yeah, Bushy crashed it, and I brought him back on. And then we had added him to the cast, and he did a phenomenal job from just the top of his head. What we were doing was a segment called Guest Pick, where I have a guest pick of whatever album they want to talk about. And Jerry Soupy had picked that one. And then And then Bushy came up on the comments. Why didn't you invite me? Why can't I get on? I went ahead and sent him an invite, and he came on, and it turned out to be a phenomenal show.
It was.
Yeah, it was a fun show.
Cool.
Yeah. Number 7, Mark.
Number 7, man. I love this band. I didn't hear the EP. I heard the first album with Fight for Your Right, and then they came out with fucking Ill Communication in 1994. The fucking Beastie Boys. This album is a fucking classic. They fucking love it, man. It's like you got Sabotage, you got Sure Shot, you got like guest rappers on there. It's fucking cool. It's like they brought back, like, they started it with Check Your Head. They brought back like some hard rock punk influences because they were originally a punk band when they started. Let's get real about that. But they became rappers because they liked rapping and they couldn't sing that good and shit. There was an original female member and a member of the Beastie Boys, so that's pretty cool. But fucking Ill Communication, I love it. I didn't put any albums out tonight because we did a thing one time, and Jerry says you're ruining it by having those albums out. So I didn't put any albums out for 94 because I didn't want to tip my hat like that one guy from the Padres tipped his pitches last week. But Ill Communication.
You know, on that album cover, every time I see the album cover, I swear that's John Belushi on that album cover.
I see that.
Always.
Looks like a Blues Brother, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, that is my favorite Beastie Boy album.
Nice.
Communication is my favorite by them. Mike, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Testament with Low. Anybody knows me knows I'm a huge thrash metal fan, and even then, at this point in time, thrash it kind of was not. I never did understand why. It was like one of those things where I liked a lot of the grunge and some of the alternative stuff, but it was like this blanket washing. Well, you can, if you're listening to this, you can't like this. And I'm like, what? Why? You know, I mean, good rock, good music's good music, you know? And to me, even some of the more alternative or grungy stuff was still like heavy, you know, it was just a different kind of heavy, you know? So I never understood, you know, that attitude, but man, this album, Low is just fucking phenomenal album, man. You know, but then again, I'm one of those people that feel like Testament never really put out a bad album. And I really dug this record. Always had, again, got a lot of memories hanging out with my buddies, you know, getting drunk, getting high, thrashing it out with Testament, man. So there you go.
I played them last night, the song Eerie something. A fucking great song, man.
You know what? I've always wondered, why weren't they bigger? They came out in that time. They came out in that area. You know, they're from the Bay Area where a lot of...
Well, Exodus wasn't that big either, if you think about it. Everybody thinks Exodus should replace Anthrax in the Big Four of thrash.
Look, let's in the debate right now. The Big Four are the Big Four because they were the most successful. All right, period. Yeah. You can like one other thrash band better than them. That's fine. But they're and look, I mean, Exodus, you could argue they're right there with Metallica. I mean, they because Metallica were from LA. Okay, people sometimes forget that they went to San Francisco and moved there for 2 reasons. 1, nobody in LA got what Metallica was doing at the time. 2, they really wanted Cliff Burton to join the band, and Cliff said, "You want me to join? You got to move up here to San Francisco." And that's what they did. Also, they got a much bigger reception in San Francisco. The Bay Area was a lot more embracing of that style of metal. They weren't really affected by what was going on in LA, you know? So, you got to Exodus really and Metallica are kind of, in my opinion, the first thrash metal bands, period. I mean, Kirk Hammett was a member of that band. You know, it was his band. He started it with some other dude. And so, to me, it's like, and I love me some Exodus too, but there's a lot of those bands. I think like Death Angel, man, I don't know if you know this, they're maybe my all-time favorite thrash metal band, at least at the moment. You know, your tastes change over time, but right now I just think they've been on an incredible roll. And I've always loved Death Angel, and they were Cliff Burton's favorite Bay Area band. So, hey man, you know, I'm in good company. But to me, Death Angel, a lot of people, if you ever remember that tour that happened, I think in 90, 91 called Clash of the Titans, where it was Megadeth, It was Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax. And the opening band was, oddly enough, Alice in Chains, but it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be Death Angel, but Death Angel had a horrific bus accident, and it really led to them breaking up. Like Death Angel took a hiatus. Even Exodus took a hiatus. Testament and the other band, Overkill from the East Coast, they've never stopped. They have constantly been recording and touring, and they never quit. So I got to tip my hat to them for that, because there was a lot of them. Even with Death Angel, like I said, they broke up, and then the other members formed another band that was more alternative metal called The Organization, which I like that stuff. It's not thrash, but I like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Testament, I don't know, man. Criminally underrated. I agree with you, Andy. I agree with you. I think Testament definitely deserve more love.
Yeah,
I think a lot of those other thrash metal bands do.
You know,
What,
who deserves more love that Andy should probably check out? They Watch Us from the Moon. Check out
Yes,
that band.
not thrash, but they're a great band.
If you like doom metal, you're gonna love that.
All right, here's the best way I could describe them, though. Think Black Sabbath meeting Pink Floyd with the girls from ABBA singing. That's what it sounds like.
Whoa,
to me.
wow.
If you want, I'll send it to you, dude.
Well, they sound better than ABBA to me.
Well, that's fine. I'm just talking vocally, dude. I'm not
Okay,
talking
yeah.
musically,
Yeah.
Because
Because in a couple of weeks I'm gonna go see Elder with another band. Wow, what is their name? With Big Buffalo or something like that. But they're kind of like they're like doom metal, I think, or like some kind of instrumental heavy music.
cool.
I'm starting to
Elder,
get
huh?
into. Yeah. And in fact, Al Horta and Edwin talked about them a few months back, and I started to check them out, and I started to really enjoy them. Then I saw that they're coming here in the middle of September.
Sweet.
So I'm going to go check them out from recommendations from, friends that I've met through here. My number 7, I was introduced to this album in 1997, not 1994. And I've been a big fan of this band ever since. This is one of my favorite albums by them. They've done quite a bit. They are for the Bay Area. No Effects, Pumpkin Doublet. Fantastic band. They're calling it quits after almost 30 years.
Wow.
And but they are on a never-ending tour. They said they don't know when they'll stop, but they've been doing this for 30 years now. I got their debut album called Animal Liberation. But this is I'm not too sure which number this was. Because they came out in the late 80s.
They've been around for a long time. I know that.
Yeah, I've heard that band, but I've never heard that band.
Oh, really? Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of their stuff.
I've heard of them, but I've never heard them.
Yeah. Pumpkin Doublet.
Mike keeps getting me into all these fucking like old thrash bands. I found a band yesterday called Sinner, and they've been out since 1982 because Pete Stash.
Oh yeah.
I was listening to Dr. Evil yesterday, and Pete Stash put on Sinner on that metalstation.com, and I went and found him, and I played a couple songs. I played a song by them last night. I go, this band rules.
Oh yeah, Pete's turned me on to some things, and it's not always thrash. Like he got me into a band called Chevy, but it's spelled Sheavy, and they're kind of like a doom metal. Definitely can hear the Sabbath love. Even the vocalist sounds not as an Ozzy clone, but there's times where you're like, oh, okay, I can hear it, So yeah, but I really like them. They're really cool. He's turned me on to, a few cool bands while I'm in the middle of doing my show, and I've turned him on to things too. But that's kind of why I think that's why we all do what we're doing here.
Yeah, it's like you said, your friend plays this stuff for you, and I know he was kind of depressed when you didn't like it, because that would be me. I said, hey, Mike, check this out. And you didn't like it. And I would go, fuck, how about this? And I go to the next thing, but.
Well, I mean, the thing is, man, I like you and me, Mark. Sometimes we agree on things and sometimes we don't. But I mean, I'd like to think we've got more in common than not, like I think like when you say something, I'm like, yeah, right on, like I love Rush. I love a lot of the things you like,
I love a lot of things you like too.
Right, exactly. So, and I've turned you on to things. You've turned me on to things. Like I said, I that's why I asked you about the Cult, because I'm like, I've heard a few songs, but I've never really, I didn't not ever like them. It's just, okay. And then I thought, I'd like to do a deep dive on those guys and see what, because there's a lot of people that just love that band,
Yeah.
So I'm always
from the first album, like Dreamtime, you're gonna go from like alternative kind of Susie and the Banshee shit, and then when they get to electric, it's just full on 60s rock and roll.
Mhm.
And then fucking they go into like hard rock and metal with Sonic Temple, and then they go different with the Cult subtitle. They change, they constantly. And then one of my favorite later albums is called Born Into This. It's just a rockin' fucking album. It just fucking just rocks your socks off, man. But
and the Cult, it could have been bigger, I think, but it seems that the media just didn't know how to categorize them.
They still headline.
And like they didn't know how to promote them. Are they grunge?
Well, hey,
hard rock. Where?
There's a lot of record companies that are just clueless. I mean, look at Armored Saint. Chrysalis is not a bad label. I mean, they were great for Blondie. They were great for a lot of other artists. I just don't think. Yeah, I just don't think they knew how to market for a heavy metal band. And sometimes, you wonder, well, why didn't this band get bigger? Why didn't that? I think a lot of it has to do with the record company. How much was the record company promoting them? Did they get the right producers for their albums? I would say in the case of Armored Saint, no, they did not.
Nope.
The first few albums, they're good records, but the production is just not that good, man.
Yeah, and the same thing with Helmet. They always wanted to promote them as the Nirvana of the East, but they weren't.
They were their own thing, man.
I bought their first album when it came out on CD, and then I forgot about them. It's like, damn.
No, I've always liked Helmet.
I liked them. I went back to them. It's like, oh wait, I forgot. I like this band Helmet. Let me go check them out again.
Yeah.
I always dug them, man. But they had their own thing going. I think trying to compare them to Nirvana, which in my opinion was nothing but watered down Melvins. That's me.
But the Cult,
I said it.
The Cult is like one of the weirdest bands out there. They're like alternative metal, hard rock, fucking like Bauhaus or Depeche Mode, and then they go fucking hard rock. I don't know what the fuck they are.
So you're saying I might like some of their stuff, but then some of
you might. I think you might like most of Love. I think you'll like She Sells Sanctuary because it's got good riffs by Billy Duffy in there. And I think you'll love Electric. Electric is just old, like Clapton, fucking Contrary, man. Love Removal Machine. You'll love fucking Sonic Temple. Sonic Temple's just a rock.
Well, I remember, wasn't that the album that one of them hit big? Was it Sonic Temple?
Sonic Temple hit big. Electric started it. Actually, it started with She Sells Sanctuary, and they had a slow build up till they got to Sonic Temple. It just went boom.
Yeah, I remember Sonic Temple. I remember because I had a couple of my buddies that had that record. So
great album.
Ceremony, which is a very interesting listen.
That's my favorite album.
It's a very interesting.
The song White rules. That is one of the best songs ever.
It's like they took a step back from what they were doing. They released an album that no one else was doing.
It sounds like the Doors, that album.
Yeah.
It's a Doors album, Ceremony. It's like, I like it. And Billy Duffy's doing those long, drown out leads. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Number 6. Oh, no. Let's talk about whatever we're doing.
I love the fucking Cult. Even their new albums they went a direction different again.
Yeah, they did.
And I had to listen to it more. I'm liking it more. But it's like, hey, man, the last, what? U-turn. You're going back to like Love. It sounds like the Love album right now.
It's kind of like they took a step back from the hard rock.
Yeah,
but
it's psychedelica. It's like psychedelica, like Love.
Yeah,
I'll have to check it out, man.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Number 6, Mark.
Number 6.
Yeah.
Nah. I fucking love this album, man. Smash by The Offspring.
Oh yeah,
I fucking love that. I like The Offspring to this day. They make me laugh, and they have great riffs, and they have great. Well, it's only 2 people now, but before when they were a band, because they fired people because they want to get COVID shots. But I like that album. I think it's fun, punk. It's like on a what Epitaph Records back then. It was this is the album that got them the major label thing to get a major label contract. I love that album. I think it's different.
When they went to a major label, my favorite album when they went to major label was Americana. It still is. I love that album. It's fantastic.
Pretty
But
fly
Epic
for a
also,
white boy.
yeah,
Give it to me, baby.
and that
All the girlies
Epitaph,
said pretty
I
fly.
think Bad Religion was on that, and so were No Effects.
I love
That was
Bad
a,
Religion.
so that was a big label back then
Yeah,
for punk
Appetite.
stars,
Yeah.
especially on the West Coast. Number 6, Mike, for you.
Oh, Mark will like this choice. Slayer, Divine Intervention. Now, I know this album, a lot of people are like, oh, after, Seasons of the Abyss, blah, blah, blah. And it's the first album without Dave Lombardo. They got Paul Bostaff, formerly of Testament, and Forbidden drumming for him. I really love this record. I really do. And this band was part of the tour that I was talking about. It was Slayer and Biohazard and one other band that I will get to later on in the list. Phenomenal show. Also at the American Theater, man. And I really like this record. I mean, it's Slayer, and if you dig Slayer, you're going to like it. If you don't, you're not. But, again, I just have a lot of memories, great memories of listening to this album. Is it my favorite Slayer album? No. But it's one of my favorites of that year. I have a lot of fond memories, and that's why my list reflects this. It reflects albums that I was listening to at the time and was really, really digging at the time. And to me, it's like if you're going to do it's a time capsule. So that's where I was in 1994.
I was never a big Slayer guy. To me, it just all sounded the same to me. But I went to a festival and they were there. Man, the first time I saw Slayer on stage live, it was a whole different world to me, man. It clicked. Something clicked when you're seeing this band in front of you.
They're a phenomenal live band.
Power.
Yes.
Off the stage, and then their fans and the crowd, you can't help but becoming one of them.
You know what's funny, Andy, about that, man? I remember the late great John Zazula, man. He was on this great documentary. If you guys ever get a chance to see it, I think it's on Amazon Prime, called Get Thrashed, and he's getting interviewed, and they're talking about all the thrash metal bands, and he was talking about when Slayer played L'Amour's, which is this legendary club in the East
Trunk
Coast.
Always talks about, yeah.
Yes, and he goes, it was like in '86. And he goes, it was the scariest fucking place you could ever be. I don't care if you were Satan himself, you were scared. He was just talking about it was the scariest show he'd ever seen, man. Because the fans were going nuts and it was just intense. And that's Slayer in one word, intense, man. And very abrasive. And some people, like my co-host Bill, hates Slayer, hates him. Part of it's because of Tom Araya's voice. He just cannot do the voice, man. And there's been that I've had that with a lot of, not just Slayer. Like there's some people who hate on Megadeth because they don't like Dave Mustaine's voice, or they'll hate on Overkill because they don't like Bobby Blitz's voice.
Right.
I'm like, I think y'all are fucked. I think they're all awesome, but that's me.
I like Overkill and I like Megadeth. I just can't get Tom's voice, man. I don't know what it is. I know he probably sings better than Dave Mustaine, but I don't know. It's a tone or something. I don't know what it is. Like you said with Gary Cherone, there's might be a certain little nano.
There's just something that bugs me about him. It just like, oh, okay. And so I mean, and I respect that, man. Not everybody, because I know how some Slayer fans can be. It's like, hey, man, I love Slayer too, but take it down about 20%. There's, squirrely Slayer fan, it's like, I do. I have a lot of great memories of this record. So that's it. That's my number 6.
This next album was a big hit in '94, and I became a fan of theirs. I went to go see them at a festival that they promoted that they created themselves, called the Horde Festival. I'm not too sure if y'all remember that, but that was like
I remember the Horde festivals. Yeah,
like in the early '90s. And
I just remember Lollapalooza, and I didn't have money to go to it. And Soundgarden was playing. I was depressed.
So this year for Horde Festival, it had the Dave Matthews Band with Natalie Merchant, Lenny Kravitz, Rusted Root, and this band, the creators of them, Blues Traveler, with 4.
I like his harmonica playing. He has that tone, that voice, and I can't get into it.
I love his voice. I love the way
I can't get into Popper's voice. I can't. I just can't.
especially his ballads, man. When he gets really down into his soul and he really starts to,
Dude, the guy could play that harmonica like a motherfucker. I
yeah.
listen to the songs just to hear him play the harmonica.
So yeah, used and live. And what's great about this album is that it's got a mixture because this was their breakthrough album, and it's got about 3 or 4 hit songs that are played on the radio. But the other songs
The
are
deep cuts, right?
they're pure jam band, man, pure jam band, where the harmonica playing goes on forever, and where the guitars just intertwine. It's a really good.
Maybe I need to listen to them more because the only time I really like the song is when at the end of that movie Kingpin, where they're playing like an Amish band. I like that song.
Yeah. But yeah, Blues Travelers, fantastic album. And I got a couple of their others, and they're more jam band oriented. But when that came out, I remember just seeing them live on this tour and just being excited to see them. So I put them at number 6.
Nice.
Mark, what's your number 5? We're halfway there, guys.
Well, you said I could do EPs.
Yes, you did.
So I had to pick the best one in 94. Alice in Chains Sap. Fucking great fucking EP, man. I love that fucking EP. I got it on vinyl back here somewhere. Fucking, it's just acoustic with little, like a lot of electric guitar mixed with it. It's just like, they didn't go total acoustic. That's what I like about Alice in Chains. They'll bring in the leads.
Dude, I thought Sap came out in 92, bro.
Sap was earlier.
Was it Jar of Flies?
It's Jar of Flies you're thinking.
Oh, I wrote down the wrong one.
Yeah,
well, Jar of Flies, Don't Get Me Wrong, was in my head, and I go, that wasn't on that album.
No, it wasn't.
So Jar of Flies, man, I love that fucking album. Don't Get Me Wrong and stuff like that. That little animated video they did. I went out and bought the EP then. How did I get fucking Sap mixed with fucking Jar of Flies?
I don't know.
I was thinking of Don't Get Me Wrong.
And a Nutshell is on there.
Nutshell, great fucking album. But they mix the leads with the acoustic, so it's not it's fucking cool. I like it.
Well, I love the instrumental Whale and Wasp.
Oh, that is a good one.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it is. And if you play those, and they sell that on vinyl, where side 1 is Sap and side 2 is Jar of Flies.
Well, I got Sap separate at record store day. Damn.
Oh, no shit. You can get both albums on one vinyl. That's, both EPs.
Yeah. That's awesome because I didn't get that one. I only have Sap.
Yeah, so I got to pick that up because I got them on CD because they're a fantastic listen, especially back to back. It's a really good.
Sorry, man, I fucked up. I wrote Sap. It should have been Jar of Flies.
That's all right, but yeah,
because I had the right song on my head. Don't Get Me Wrong, which is on Jar of Flies. So I would have sang that. I would sound so stupid. Go ahead.
Yeah, but Don't Get Me Wrong is not on Jar of Flies.
What is it? What's Nutshell, right?
Yeah. A Nutshell's on Jar of Flies.
Yeah.
I love Jar of
Flies.
I
Stay away.
I stay away. That's the song I'm thinking about. I stay away.
I love that song. Yeah.
That fucking, I love that. Like after Lane sings that chorus and that fucking little acoustic guitar comes, fucking love it.
And that acoustic bass throughout the whole album.
Oh yeah,
just bouncing along.
That was Michael Inez, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. And I still remember that they're Unplugged. Their Unplugged was fantastic. It was so emotional.
That won against Nirvana, remember?
Yeah, that did win against Nirvana, but it was really close. Mike, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is a criminally underrated band, and that's Prawn with Cleansing. I'm a huge Tommy Victor fan, phenomenal guitar player. I mean, he's so good. He plays guitar for Glenn Danzig, and which I'm not a huge fan of Danzig, but that's a whole other story. And Ministry. He's been in Ministry with Al Jorgensen when Mike Scaccia passed away. Just a phenomenal guitar player. Prawn's been around for a long time. They got a new album that's getting ready to come out. But yeah, man, I highly recommend this band and this album. In fact, you should check out his entire discography. Prawn are badass, man. I've seen them.
So what is Prawn? Is Prawn metal or is it?
They're metal. They're
okay.
metal.
Okay.
Yeah, they are kind of considered groove metal, alternative metal, and industrial metal as well. Like they got elements of all that in there.
Mm-hmm.
Cleansing. their first album. The first album they had was Prove You Wrong, and that's the album they toured with Ozzy on when Ozzy was doing No More Tears. And then, as I said, there's Cleansing, and then Rude Awakening is a great record. I don't think this band's ever put out a bad album, man. So yeah, I would definitely, if you get a chance, check them out. Just a phenomenal band.
Yeah, when I've heard of their name like countless times for the longest time, but I've never really sat down to hear their music.
I think I asked you for some Prong and some Sepultura, but I know you've been busy.
Well, I thought I sent those to you, man.
No, you didn't send no Sepultura or Prong to me, but
I'll get on that. I'll get on that.
I know what you're going through, man. So
that's cool, man. I'll get on that. I will get on that. If in fact, I might already have them uploaded in my Dropbox. If I do, I'll just send you the link after the show. But I'm pretty sure I thought I did. Oh, I know what stumbled. But the thing with Sepultura is I got their entire discography digitally, and there's like different versions of their albums. So I'm probably gonna have to do that in parts, bro. But I'll hook you up.
That's fine.
Yeah, Sepultura. I'm gonna write that down for you right now, Mark.
My number 5. Mark might find it interesting that it's lower, not higher. But Weezer with the Blue Album is my number 5.
I really thought that would be your number 1, dude. I didn't pick it. I put it on my mentions because I wanted you to have that because I think you would be the only one who picked it.
Yeah, but this is going to be my number 5, Weezer, the Blue Album. We were introduced to this. This is a phenomenal album from beginning to end. But one of their biggest hits, Buddy Holly, to me is kind of their weaker track on it.
It is. It is. Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
When I first saw that video, I was like, okay. But a buddy of mine, Matt Powell, he bought the album and he played the whole album for me. And I loved it. Man.
And you loved In the Garage, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I did. But the whole dude, just Destroy Sweater. Man, there's so many cool fucking songs.
Sweater.
On that album,
wasn't Sweater the first video? I think
that was the first.
I thought it was Buddy Holly was the first.
No,
video.
that was the second.
It's the first video I remember seeing. But
I saw a Sweater and I go, this band rules. And I saw Buddy Holly and I go, oh, that's the episode with the dance off with Fonzie. I love that.
And to me, it was like, oh, it's a very cool video. To me, it was like garage rock, but with this pop sensibility.
Yes.
And that's what I dug about it, man. Then when you find out it was Rick Ocasek of the Cars who produced it, it was like, oh, well, all right then. But yeah, man. I wouldn't say I'm like a huge but I've got most of their albums, so I guess I'm a pretty big fan of theirs. You know, I mean, I've got all of their stuff digitally. I had all of them on CD until a certain redheaded Grinch stole my Christmas, but we won't talk about her. It's an ex, and
we'll be here for 3 hours.
Right. But it was but I do like it. It's not on my list,
right?
And only because I figured one of you guys would have it on yours, so I was
trying. I thought Andy would be number 1. He was surprised. I thought it'd be higher.
I mean, because I honestly, like I said, with my list, I wanted it to be very personal, and just not go for the obvious because to me there are some albums that are not on my list that I know you have on yours or will not have on, but objectively I'd go, yeah,
there has to be one album me and you have on our list, Mike, and we haven't got to it yet. So
but the first time I saw Weezer was after the Pinkerton tour. They played this little place called Numbers. It was tiny, and since then I've seen them several times.
Let me ask you something. It's kind of funny about you just mentioned Pinkerton. I know that album kind of got a lot of backlash when it first came out.
Right.
I liked it I
loved it when it first came out.
And now it's like considered this like lost or misunderstood masterpiece. But I'm like, man, I got it the first time I heard it. Like I'm like, but it's funny how some people, I guess, either they change their mind or I guess that happens sometimes. Certain types of art, whether it's film, music, or whatever. Sometimes it doesn't always find its niche right away or its niche right away. It like takes a while for the masses to catch up, so to speak.
And that album, which was their second one, I remember the internet was just coming around, and my friend, when we were in college, because when Pinkerton came out, it didn't have lyrics. So we printed out the lyrics off the internet. This was like the first time we ever printed anything.
Right. It's with the infancy of,
Yeah. And we took it back to his house and we went through these lyrics like it was some grand writing, but it was a really good, well-written album. And I remember us going through those sheets, and it's like Weezer's been a very special band for me because of certain people that I've come to know because of the band.
Right.
That's
Well,
my-
it's interesting too, because like you just said, man, I mean, I don't know. I didn't really notice the backlash at the time.
yeah.
You know, like to me, it was just Weezer's new album. But, and again, like you said, the internet wasn't as prevalent then. So maybe that's why, you know, I mean, it's kind of weird how like there's certain albums that came out where I didn't have a problem with. And then later I'll find out, well, you know, the reaction to this album was not good or wasn't as positive as some other albums, you know, and I'm like, I think maybe the internet has something to do with that, because you're not totally aware of what's going on. I mean, you're aware of what's going on around you and your world, but you know, you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
oh yeah. But a Rolling Stone crapped on it when it came out.
well, what's
new?
And
Rolling
now-
Stone always craps on everything that's awesome. I'm sorry,
Now-
that they're such a rag. I hate Rolling
Yeah,
Stone.
and now they're considered. Now, when they did another poll, it was considered one of the greatest albums of the '90s. When it went from one of the worst to one of the greatest.
And
So
the only
it's
thing,
Crew 94. Rolling Stones changed their mind on Crew 94.
well,
also.
here's the thing about Rolling Stone, though, that you have to remember: whoever wrote that original review probably ain't even working for them anymore.
Right.
It's somebody new, probably somebody younger, who's
Yeah.
come along and go, well, hey, I love this record.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I don't, you know, I mean, my biggest problem with Rolling Stone is the people who run it. It's they have this
Wiener.
elitist think
Jan
they're
Wiener.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. It's like the same people who run the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
well, and it is the
Jan
same
Wiener.
people, and that's why I say fuck them too.
Well, Jan
Pardon my
Wiener did
French.
step down from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame executive board. So.
See, I don't care though, because they're still not going to make. I don't know.
Well,
Number
you
one-
know, they every time they put a metal band in, those metal bands get to vote, and you got those people like the Foo Fighters will vote for metal, Dave Grohl, all those. Then you got even Pink. If she ever gets a hall, she loves metal too, and Lady Gaga loves metal.
I
too.
know that. I know
Yeah.
that. But here's part of my problem with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Number one, the name. When you're inducting rap, pop, disco artists, which I have no problem with any of those genres, it's not rock and roll. They should call it the American Music Hall of Fame, like
Right.
Great Britain, the Great Britain Music Hall of Fame. That way you can induct whatever genre you want, because some of these artists they've inducted, like Madonna's not rock and roll. Is she a
No.
Hall of Famer? Yes, she's
Oh,
had
yeah.
a Hall of Fame
She's
career.
pretty rock and roll for her attitude, man.
Oh no, but
We're talking music, bro.
Ah,
She
okay.
is not rock and roll. She's pop.
But
She
the
is pop
Beatles were
music.
pop. The Beatles were pop too.
No.
They were
no.
considered pop
The
when they
Beatles
first came
were
out.
rock and roll. Okay.
But
They-
don't
they
you but
evolved into psychedelic
pop
rock?
music, all this pop music, rap music, country, rhythm and blues became rock and roll evolved into these different.
I don't
types of
care,
genres.
dude. Change
that-
the name of the fucking institution.
But
If
I'm
you're going to
just
call it
so
rock
Michael
and
Jackson
roll,
isn't rock and roll.
no, he
he
is
is
not.
rock and roll.
He is Motown. He is pop.
Motown
he
is rock and roll.
No, it's
Motown
not.
is a part of rock and roll history, man.
But the thing
Okay.
is that when it comes to
It's a
rock and
part
roll,
of music history. You're missing my
Temptations
point.
isn't rock and roll. What
So
are the
okay, is
Temptations?
Beethoven rock and roll? I mean, after
No,
all, he
but
was the
what
rock,
are the
but he was a rock
Temptations?
star for his era, right?
What are the Temptations? Are the Temptations rock and roll?
No,
Jackson 5?
nope.
Nope.
They are rock and roll.
No, they're
Motown
not rock
is
and
the
roll.
art of
dude.
rock and roll.
R&B and
Chuck
everything.
Berry is rock and roll. Elvis
R&B,
is rock and roll.
Rock and roll is made of country, rhythm and blues, and country.
It's blues and
Right.
country.
Blues
Okay.
and
Blues.
R&B. R&B
Right,
is
R&B,
part of
but they
that.
stayed in the R&B camp, and there's nothing wrong with that. They never
No,
went.
yeah, I'm
rock
not
and
saying
roll.
it's bad music, dude. You're
No.
missing my point. I just think they need to change the name.
But
Rock and roll
has
does
so
not
many-
mean all fucking music.
rock and roll has spawned so many genres. It is part of the same tree. It's like people call, well, that's grunge. No, it's rock and roll to me. It's like what Billy Joel said, hot punk, cool junk. Even if it's old junk, it's still rock and roll to me.
Right.
All this shit is rock and roll, unless you're Britney Spears.
So-
You ain't rock and roll.
Okay, well, what's the difference between Madonna and Britney Spears?
Because
dude?
Brit-
musically,
Madonna
there's no difference.
Madonna wrote her shit.
I don't give a fuck.
Madonna did have some rock songs.
Oh, please. Where?
Madonna did not
When?
have rock songs.
She did
Come on. No, they
American
did-
Pie.
Dude, oh my god, dude, that's like the worst cover ever made. Are you kidding me? You're
Stop
making
it,
me
dude.
mind, Mark.
I swear,
American
sometimes I
Pie.
think
You
you,
know
just
what?
argue just for the sake of arguing.
Yeah, I was
motherfucker.
just gonna say, I said that on
Fuck.
purpose. It makes a
Anyway,
fun show.
God.
But I
Just
for
call
one,
it the
am a lover
American
of the
music
rock
But
follow.
rock and roll is Motown. Motown is part of rock
No,
and roll.
Motown
man.
is Motown.
Brian Davis will disagree with you.
Okay, he can disagree with
Percy
me.
Sledge isn't fucking rock and roll.
No, it's not, Mark.
No.
It's
It
R&B.
is.
Soul music.
It's part of
different.
rock and roll.
It's soul music.
It's what was the blues? It was soul music.
No, it was blues. There is a difference between the blues and the
blues
soul
and
soul
R&B have
music.
mixed, man. It's organic.
Doesn't
Yeah.
make it rock and roll, dude.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but you
I
can't-
disagree with you guys, but I do agree it should be called the
American Music Hall of
American
Fame.
Music Hall of Fame.
That way you can put whatever genre.
Well, they
Doesn't
shouldn't call it
matter.
the American Music. They
I mean,
should
look,
just call it
man,
the
and
Hall
you
of
know
Fame.
this. I like ABBA, but guess what? They're not fucking rock and roll, dude. They're
Yeah.
not. They're
I
not.
would say they're part of rock and roll, man, or
You're
pop.
crazy.
Pop
No.
is part of rock and roll, man.
pop is pop. Dude.
Pop is just called pop because
most
it's
pop don't
popular.
even have fucking guitar in it.
Rock
okay?
and roll is not linear. It's not on a straight line. Rock and roll is ever moving. I like the Killers. They're rock and roll to me. I like these other. I think Depeche Mode is rock and roll, but it's linear. It's not linear. Rock and roll, like it spawns all this different shit, man.
Yeah, but I agree with you about Killers and Depeche Mode. That is rock and roll. That's a different kind of rock and roll. But you're talking about other genres like R&B and
R&B is part of rock and roll. You can't tell me that fucking guy fucking I put a spell on you was not fucking rock and roll. Screaming
Ronnie?
Jay Hawkins was not rock and roll.
He's,
What was CCR? CCR was a blues of Southern rock and R&B and blues. They mixed R and Motown into their sound. I
Yeah,
heard they
but-
did. I heard it through the grapevine. So Marvin Gaye is not rock and roll.
yeah, but they changed it into a
But
rock
is
and roll.
Marvin Gaye not rock and roll?
No, it's not.
Marvin Gaye is fucking rock and roll as fuck.
Okay,
Here I go. I'm looking at right now rhythm and blues, and they've got all the stylistic origins: jazz, blues, spirituals, gospel, boogie, woogie, jump, blues, and swing.
And all that
Oh.
shit goes.
And then derivative forms: beat music, brill building, disco, hard hop, hip hop, mod revival, rock and roll. Okay, fair enough.
There you go.
Reggae, ska, smooth jazz. But you know what? That's what I'm saying. Just change the name, because when you're putting fucking, Notorious B.I.G. in or whoever the fuck, that's not
Well,
rock and
I
roll.
agree. That is the hip hop is not rock and roll. The only two rock and roll hip hop groups that are in there is fucking Beastie Boys and Run DMC.
what about
That's what
NWA?
NWA got in.
NWA isn't rock. Is not rock and roll.
No, but they didn't get into the Rock
They
and Roll
got
Hall
in.
of
They
Shame.
got
Yeah, of
in
course
the-
they did. Of
NWA
course they
got in.
did. Of course they're fucking clueless. Fuck the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that's another thing I hate about it. Number one, they've never respected hard rock and heavy metal ever. I mean,
Nope.
Rolling Stones slagged it ever since it first started. And then when they do induct them, they make them wait like over a decade, and then we're supposed to thank our lucky stars that they fuck that, man. Like I'm with other people. Just take my bands
Hey,
out of there, man.
Can I say
but,
your
ugh.
bands did get in there? They were my bands too, but I got three bands that should be in there just by sales alone. REO Speedwagon,
Yeah, I agree.
Styx,
Yes.
and Foreigner.
Yeah.
They get slagged because they're considered journey pop, and they fucking did
Corporate
more
rock
than
is
pop.
what they called it when I was a kid, but
It's
I
not
never
corporate rock at all.
I
fucking
never
did-
bought that. I was like,
No.
whatever. They're just a rock band. They were hard
They
rock
get
at the
ignored.
time.
They don't even get talked about.
No.
And you get fucking Motley Crue, fucking the top thing that people want to get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. When you got Styx, REO Speedwagon, at least Cheap Trick. Well, I don't care they got him, but at least they finally got recognized for something. I'm happy for that.
But see, I don't. My problem is I don't know why people put so much importance on them when
I'm just saying, just by those 3 bands alone,
that's what I mean.
suck.
To me, they're a joke. They're a joke. I mean, even the ones that they do let in, like they made Sabbath wait for over a decade. They made Rush wait for over a decade. They made Kiss wait. I mean, how many of the bands that should have been in a long time ago, including the ones you mentioned, they should have been in a long time ago. I mean, give me a break. And even when they do, look what they did to Judas Priest. Oh, we're going to let you in, but we're going to, fuck that, man. Fuck that. Man, if I was one of those dudes, I'd say, fuck you and your, just like Sid Vicious did, or not Sid Vicious, Johnny Rotten. Now I know Ozzy told him, because there was a while there where every time they would nominate Sabbath, they wouldn't make it. So Ozzy finally told him, well, just take us off the ballot. If you're not, who gives a shit? And of course they threw the bat and the dove and all that. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And then no sooner does Ozzy tell him that they finally get in, and he wasn't going to go. But Sharon was like, well, it's not just about you. It's about Tony and Geezer and Bill. You need to go. So he went ahead and went, but he didn't like it. And I loved what Alex Lifeson, blah, 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 blah. And he did that on purpose. That was his way of telling them to go.
But did you see it? I think it was in LA. The whole back row is full of Rush fans.
Oh yeah.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah. Well, I for one love the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think it's interesting every year when they come up with their inductees and who gets in and who's in.
Yeah, Missy Elliott, though. Missy Elliott is not rock. I'm sorry.
No, Missy Elliott should never even been on a ballot, much less.
And then that's why I get pissed about it. If they called it the American Music Hall of Fame, they could induct any of those people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say a fucking word.
Because I love Dolly Parton, I love Willie Nelson, but they don't belong there. They just
even Dolly said that.
Yeah, they don't belong.
Kenny Rogers does. He was in a rock group called the Fifth Dimension.
The Fifth Dimension.
There you go.
Oh yeah, on Black Spinner Messenger, Kate took a picture of his grave today.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Kenny Rogers. Yeah.
I like Kenny. Look, I'm not saying, but like we already know Willie, most of those guys are in the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And I've often felt that every subgenre should have their own Hall of Fame, but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they just need to rename it the American Music Hall of Fame, because it's not that way they can induct, and then people can't really bitch. Because look, there's a lot of artists that I don't particularly care for, but do I consider them Hall of Famers? Gee, if you've had a career that's lasted, 15, 20, 30, 40, maybe 50, you're a Hall of Famer.
Right.
I'll name some bands I don't like at all that I feel are Hall of Famers. One of them, Mark likes, Duran Duran. They're Hall of Famer.
They're in there.
Yeah. But, Bruce Springsteen, not a big fan of his, but guess what? He belongs in the Hall of Fame.
I think he's on the board as well.
I mean, as far as me, when it comes to blue collar rock, I'm more of a Bob Seger guy, but hey.
Yeah. Tom Petty.
Yeah, love Tom Petty.
Is Bob Seger in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Yeah. I would imagine. I don't know though. They're pretty fucking retarded, so who knows? I don't even pay attention anymore. I quit paying attention.
Because I was shocked when I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2017. I was shocked to see, not shocked that the Beach Boys were in there because they belong there, but Brian Wilson's name was not along with them.
I think he probably said no.
Yeah.
Wow.
The originator, the maker, the writer, the everything.
That's odd. Yeah, that's odd.
Because Mike Love controls all that shit.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just kind of feel like that's what they need to do with it. But
oh yeah. I definitely agree.
I will say this though, whether you like Rage Against the Machine or not, Tom Morello's speech for Kiss was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I did watch that, and
I like Rage Against the Machine. I like the band with Chris Cornell, Audio Slave. I think he's a phenomenal guitar player. I just ignore his politics.
Me too. Well, him and Ted Nugent are friends, and you couldn't talk about two more polar opposites.
Exactly. But to me, I love Rage. I own all their music. I've seen them when they were touring for Evil Empire, but not Hall of Fame worthy in my opinion.
No, they keep getting denied. They got denied again this year.
Didn't they go in this past?
No, Tom's part of the committee that again.
But they got denied the last 2 years, dude. They got denied again. Yeah.
They just don't have enough output for me to put them in there.
Well, they put in the Sex Pistols, dude.
Yeah, I know, but
again, they have way more output than the Sex Pistols.
Well, if you're gonna let Guns N' Roses in, you
Oh,
may as
we're
well let
we're
Roy Shinsley-
one and a half albums. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's how I feel about it. I mean,
Oh, well,
and
that's
not only
not-
that,
Yeah,
you know,
I don't-
even I mean, I know some people love Lose Your Illusion 1 and 2, whatever, that's fine. But my point is they didn't do another album for what? Fucking 20 something years or something, however long it was.
I like that
And-
album.
And I don't care if people like it or not. That's irrelevant. That's not a Hall of Fame by
No, it's
Andy's
No, it's
criteria.
not a Hall
it's
of
not.
Fame. Dude.
They
But look
shouldn't
at
be
the
in.
tickets. Look at the ticket sales they're doing right now. Look at
I
the
don't give a
stadiums.
fuck.
They are a Hall of Fame band. Even, dude.
No,
Do you
No.
you see LA Guns fucking selling out stadiums?
no.
Charles
that's a
is
whole
like
other
Charles
argument.
is laughing his ass off right now because I'm putting down LA Guns here.
No,
Yeah, I don't think Guns N' Roses belongs in the
I never
Rock and Roll
said
Thing.
they weren't popular. Yeah.
Yeah.
Overrated in my fucking opinion.
Well, dude, they're
but
going to be around for another 50 years, and they are a Hall of Fame band, even if they don't make anything else. But I heard there's a new song coming out on Friday.
no, to me, a Hall of Fame band is somebody who's done it on a consistent level for a long
Yes,
time.
yeah,
And Guns N'
and
Roses did
one
not. There was
album.
like a almost 20-year gap between albums. That's
Yeah,
not
Tesla's,
okay.
Tesla's better.
Would that be okay? Okay, let me put it this way in sports terms. Would Kurt Warner have gotten in the Hall of Fame if he had not had a resurrection with the Cardinals? No, he would not.
No.
Even though he broke a bunch of records with the Rams, he got hurt. He wasn't getting any chances. He goes to Arizona.
I was so pissed off you
resurrects
guys
his
came
career.
back on them. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck.
Oh, wah. Okay, I don't want to hear it. But the point is, man.
I didn't
he's a
want
Hall
you
of
getting that
Famer.
6th championship.
Exactly.
Well, and we did, so get over it.
and he went for
Well, then the
Rams.
Patriots
Didn't
beat
he
you.
go to the Giants for,
No, they
for a little
didn't.
bit too?
They've only got 6 Super Bowls too. Try again.
Yeah.
What now, Andy?
Didn't he go to the Giants after the Rams, or did he go to the
He
Giants?
went to the,
He went to the Giants for a minute.
and then they got that one, that Eli Manning, and
And
then
the-
he signed with Arizona
Arizona.
and resurrected his career.
Yeah, he really did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's a
and,
good
and that's what I'm
man.
saying. If that hadn't happened, though, he would, even though he put up amazing numbers with the Rams, it wouldn't have been enough to get him in the Hall of Fame.
Dude, that team they had on that Rams team,
Oh yeah,
fucking Torrey Hull, Isaac Bruce.
I know, I was there, dude.
the
God
greatest show on turf.
damn.
The greatest show on turf.
I fucking hate the Rams. Fuck them.
I hate the LA Rams.
Well, they are the LA Rams again.
That's why
Yeah.
I hate them. Fuck them.
Well, you beat them in 80, right? 79.
Yes, we did. The Steelers did. Anyway, moving on. I'm
Number
sorry, we don't
four,
have to
Mark.
tangent.
Number
Oh,
four.
mine? I'm gonna, like I said, there's an album on here. I think that Mike has it on his list. If he doesn't, I got in this band. I bought it used because I like that song "Walk," and I'm going, "Oh, this fucking rules!" So I bought that, and then I waited. I heard they're having a new album because I got that Tower Records Pulse magazine.
Yeah.
Oh, they have a new album. I'm gonna go get it. I didn't hear it. I just went and bought it, put it in my car. I go, "What the fuck is this?" This is fucking like, oh god, I had those 12-inch woofers. This fucking album is just like I rolled up the windows. I was just getting into Far Beyond Driven by Pantera. What a fucking masterpiece of a fucking heavy metal fucking thrash album, man. It's kind of thrash and metal. I fucking love it.
Yeah. And what's so great about that is that it's completely different from Vulgar Display of Power.
Look, it's like way
the
different.
Tone.
There was more groove in
Yes.
Vulgar. This one was just like straight out, we're gonna fuck your mom.
It's like, I mean, the music was the vocal, the lyrics were deeper, darker. The music was even heavier and sludgier. Yeah, it's a fantastic album. I didn't put it on
5
mine.
minutes alone, dude. That just like,
Yeah.
It's like, fucking hey, that album is just, it hit me in the fucking head, dude. It was like, this is way different than Metallica. My God, they were like
Yeah, well,
under
better.
Metallica. Then I heard this album and I go, oh fuck, this rules. This is like, dude, we used to get so stoned to this album. It's like we're like,
we would go see
eh.
a lot here in Texas, a lot.
Well,
think-
yeah, I mean, they were from Dallas, so I can imagine.
So we would see them a lot. And I think we really saw them quite a bit in the late 90s, early 2000s. They were touring a lot. And they were on Ozfests constantly. And it was a really good time for me and a Pantera. It was a special time. Go ahead, Mike. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is a death metal band. I'm not real big on the death metal subgenre, but there's a few bands I do love, and this was one of them. And this is Obituary with World Demise. I mean, just pummeling drums. I mean, the Tardy brothers. You got the vocalist John Tardy, and then you got his brother Donald, who's the drummer. Just like, boom, 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 just smacks you in the ear hole, man. Just a great album. I mean, you got Don't Care, World Demise, Final Thoughts, just a killer album. Love me some Obituary. I've been a fan ever since. This was the album that my buddy Chris Douglas, he was into a lot of metal, but he was also into a lot of extreme metal. And like I said, at first I was like, man, I don't know about this death metal stuff, but when he played me this band and then he played in another band named Entomb, that's when I started getting into death metal. Yeah. Like I said, I'm still very particular about who I like, but they're one of my all-time favorite death metal bands. The vocals are pretty aggressive, but they're not like Cookie Monster vocals. They're more like maybe like Gollum, from the Lord of the Rings type of stuff, yeah. But I love them, man. And the musicianship is phenomenal. Yeah, well, kind of more or less like, you'd have to listen to them, but, my precious, but maybe a little bit closer. But yeah, man, just a great band in my opinion, and a great record. So that's my number 4.
Well, when you called them the Tardy brothers, I thought of Daily Roth. I don't feel tardy. It came into my head. Dad joke.
You know what I've been thinking about while we're going through all of our picks? All of our picks are different. Mm-hmm. All of our picks are different genres of rock. We're going heavier. We're going, grungier. We're going.
Most of my list is pretty heavy, though.
Mine is going rock grunge now coming up. So.
Yeah, my number 4, and I remember. Me and my buddy Dave drove to San Antonio for this album tour, and man, when we got there, it was just so great. Stone Temple Pilots.
I figured this would be on your list. One of you guys is. This is
a great album from beginning to end. We used to jam this CD. I mean, the case, I remember it used to be forever on my floorboard because the CD was always inside it would have cigarette burns and smell like pot and who knows what else was on top of that album cover, that CD case. But man, this is a really good album. Completely different, again, from their debut album. Their debut album is pretty much one big piece of noise with some different grooves, but this is one song after another is completely different from each other. Purple by Stone Temple Pilots is my number 4.
Mark? Right. I'm getting into my number 3, right?
Yeah.
Number 3, Pearl Jam Vitology. This one and number 2 was an album that I had both cassettes. Or no, I had CDs. I had a CD player, and I was driving my grandma's beat-up car because my car was fucking gone because I couldn't get to work anymore. She finally let me drive her car, but I had to quit my job to get her to let me drive her car. So drove her car around, and we were scoring weed. This one kid, because my friend was with this one chick that he wanted to be with, and we took his brother. He said, hey, can you take his brother? So we took the brother with us, and he was smoking weed with us. I think he was like 17, smoking weed with us. And we were playing this in the car a lot, and another album that's before it. Pearl Jam Vitology, man. I fucking love this album. It's so fucking eclectic, way different than the first two. It's like they went another direction here. I go, they changed it up. I like change ups. I'm a Rush fan. So it was like, ooh, fucking, they had like songs like Spin the Black Circle, where it's like pure punk. And they had songs like Corduroy. And then they had songs like Rats. No, that was on the other album. But they had songs like
about Bugs.
Bugs, yeah, I mean, yeah. Bugs. Like there's Bugs, like spoken word, weird shit that any bit. It's like you're smoking a fucking joint to that shit, and you're like, oh fuck. It's talking about Bug, but Corduroy's always been one of my favorite songs by
me too.
Pearl Jam, man. I like everything they put out. Some things not as much, but some things a lot. I like the last 2 albums they put out too, so they're still kicking it for me. So the Pearl Jam Vitology, my number 3.
Nice. What's your number? What do you think about Pearl Jam, Mike?
They're probably my least favorite of the grunge
The grunge
bands. I'm not big on them. They had a few good songs. I mean, I don't hate them or anything, but I never understood what the fucking fuss was. Quite honestly, I was like I said, they were okay. I don't want to sound like I'm bashing them,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had a lot of friends that just absolutely adored them, but I was always kind of like, yeah, you know.
You got a guitar player in there whose fucking favorite band is UFO, dude. They like metal.
I'm not that big on UFO.
But they like a lot
They're
of metal,
okay.
dude.
I never understood where everybody freaks out on UFO. Oh my God, they weren't that great.
I like one of the best live albums is Strangers in the Night by UFO. That's a great album. But I'm just saying, because Michael Schenker rules. But I'm just saying, Pearl Jam had a groove compared to all those other bands.
And I can't stand it. You want to talk about a vocalist I don't fucking like? There's one right there. I'm not a big Eddie Vedder fan. His Jarl and shit. I'm not big on him. I'm just not.
I love it.
But they had a groove. Better Man was on this album too. Fuck, I love that song.
There was a few songs I liked. I'm not going to sit there and totally hate on them. But yeah, I liked Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, which is funny. Popularity wise, I would say out of the big four, it'd probably be Nirvana's 1, Pearl Jam 2, Soundgarden be 3, and Alice in Chains would be the fourth one as far as like
popularity,
album sales and popularity. But my ranking is the exact opposite. It's like it's Alice in Chains 1, Soundgarden 2 for me, you know. But yeah, I mean, like I said, they had some good songs, talented musicians. I'm not going to take that away from them. I mean, but yeah, I was never like, yeah, Pearl Jam rule. Not one of those
Soundgarden
guys.
drummers in Pearl Jam for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I know.
Mike Cameron.
But he sure did a whole lot better job on Soundgarden, though.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I think so.
But I do love one thing that I do like that Eddie was part of, but it was pretty much a Chris Cornell project. I love Temple of the Dog. I thought that was
he only sang that one song.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but that album was really good.
Oh, that
fucking great record.
Reach Down is like an epic talking about how an artist wants to reach down and pick his crowd up. You know, it's like you could see him doing that like on stage. I fucking love that song.
It's really a rock jam album because there are some songs on there that they stretch out to the.
Oh, fuck yeah. Reach Down is one of them.
Yeah. What's your number 3?
All right. Another one that may not be as well known as some, but among us metalheads, it's considered a classic. Nail Bomb, which was a project from that Max Cavalera of Sepultura and Alex Newport of Fudge Tunnel did. So it's like this industrial thrash groove metal, phenomenal album from the very beginning to the very end, just pummeling. It's amazing. I love this record. I've listened to this. I mean, and it's so legendary, at least to us metalheads, that, as I said, it was a side project. It was started by Max Cavalera and Alex Newport in the mid 90s. And the first track, Wasting Away, actually appears in the 1995 film To Die For. And even the cover's hardcore because it's the cover of a female Vietnamese civilian with a U.S. soldier's gun to her head. It's the album's called Point Blank. And, they finally played it live in its entirety for the first time ever in 2017 by Max Cavalera with his band Soulfly. And that was more than 20 years after the release of the album and the band's breakup. Alex Newport, of course, wasn't part of that tour or anything, but it's just a great record. I highly recommend it. If you like industrial music, if you're not into it, you probably won't like it. If you don't like thrash, you don't like industrial, but if you're into that kind of stuff, and I like that stuff, you're going to dig it, man.
I do like Ministry. I've got several of their CDs
and
I love Ministry. Love them.
I can throw them on and really enjoy.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell
Jesus built my hot rod, man. Psalm 69.
In fact, as much as I like Nine Inch Nails, I actually like Ministry better. I know that might be blasphemous to some people.
No. I feel the same way. Nine Inch Nails is just okay.
Yeah.
But Ministry blows them away. They really do.
Every day of the week, twice on Sunday, as far as I'm concerned, especially when you had Mike Scacchi on guitar. Holy shit.
That's what makes the big difference is the guitars blowing away the keyboards.
The guitar player from Rigor Mortis,
Yep.
the thrash metal band from Texas, man. Mike was an amazing guitar player, man.
You see, I didn't know all that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Speaking of going to a show and hearing a whole album, I went to a show and I heard this whole album that I'm about to talk about. I was introduced to this album in 1995 when I lived down in Corpus Christi. We would go to the beach a lot, quite a bit. And in fact, this is still my friend's CD that I borrowed back in 1995.
That's awesome.
And I still have it.
You're one of those, huh?
Yeah, I am one of those.
I lost so many CDs to friends like you.
We are the best kind. Hey, you know what? We take care of it. And they came to Houston years later. This might have been about 20-something years later. And they were going to play this album in its entirety, but I was at a birthday party for my uncle, and I didn't want to leave. Well, it started to die down. I said, you know what? If I drive to downtown Houston, maybe I'll be able to catch a little bit of the show. Well, I went down there, and I said, what's the cover? The guy goes, well, just come on in. So they let me in for free. There were 7 of us at this show. There were only 7 of us. And they started this album the time that I walked in. And us 7 people that were at that show sang every single word to this album. And the band, I mean, it was a small place, so the stage was like that high from the ground where you're able to touch the chords on the stage. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of this band, but I love this album. Smoking Popes, Born to Quit.
No, I never heard of it.
They are out of Chicago. If I wanted to, what they sound like is Morrissey vocals with Ramones music in the background.
So I would like that. I don't know about if he likes the Smiths.
But yeah, and in fact, when this came out, Morrissey said that this was the best album of that year. And I'm not a big Morrissey guy at all, but Smoking Popes, Born to Quit. I sent this to Charles Trainer last week, and I never heard a feedback to see if he liked it or not. And I sent it to him because I didn't want to send it to you, Mark, because I was going to talk about it tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but Smoking Popes, Born to Quit. It's pop punk or whatever you want to call it, but the lyrics are kind of lovelorn lyrics, sang in a Morrissey tone with Ramones-like guitars in the background. They're out of Chicago, Illinois, and they were part of that whole scene with Smashing Pumpkins and all of that. But check them out, guys. I really think if y'all like
I wrote them down. I'm going to, bro.
So did I.
Smoking Popes, Born to Quit. And I found an album of theirs at Target, and it didn't have a price on it. And when they scanned it, they said, well, it's $5.99. I was like, oh, okay, I'll buy it. So they're a pretty good band. It consists of 3 brothers and a cousin.
Oh,
yeah. Okay, guys, we're down to number 2. Mark.
All right, my number 2 goes with number 3, the Pearl Jam Vitology. I had this cassette in the car with this cassette, and me and this one kid would go back and forth to listen to them, and we'd be sitting there having discussions. What album do you think's better? What album do you like better? And we both came to the same consensus that Soundgarden's Super Unknown kicked Vitology's ass. The best song ever by Soundgarden is fucking The Day I Tried to Live. I just like the emotion in Chris's voice.
Yeah.
Spoon Man is great. Black Hole Sun I've always was a hit, but when I got it because of Spoon Man. I bought the album because I liked the album before that, so I bought this album. And then I heard freaking The Day I Tried to Live, 4th of July. The whole album is just fucking amazing fucking emotion and fucking doomy, poppy Beatles album. It's like mixed with everything I loved. And some psychedelica. This fucking album rules, and I still love it to this day. I do have it on vinyl back there.
Yeah, that Zeppelin, Sabbath, Beatles.
Everything was mixed, just
You know,
thrown
the
into
only
that
thing
album.
that gripes my ass about Soundgarden is Kim Tahill when he tries to act like that Sabbath and Zeppelin wasn't much of an influence. He's like, well, I can hear a little bit. And I'm like, really?
You see?
Real? Oh, dude, watch Metal Evolution when they cover grunge. Yeah, he just kind of is almost like, well, and it's like, really, dude, really? Okay,
I
man.
really hate when they say, "Oh, well, I didn't really listen to that." Really,
Like Greta Van Fleet saying Zeppelin didn't influence them.
Right. Okay. Yeah, sure. Sure they didn't. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Fuck off. I mean, I mean, well, and I know like Kim admits he likes a lot of hard rock and heavy metal. I know all those guys were big Kiss fans, but I'm sitting there going, dude, the first time I heard Soundgarden, I'm like, oh shit, this is Zeppelin meeting Sabbath. And wow, talk about a surefire formula for success. You know, like, I mean, those vocals of Cornell's, I mean, very Robert Plant like. Not, but he wasn't a Robert Plant clone. And then you got that heavy, thick, like you said. Plus, they'd mix in the psychedelic, especially on Super Unknown. I mean, shit, how could you lose, man?
Yeah, and it sucks that we're not going to like you any less. We know it already. We know y'all blended it together.
Yeah, there's a reason why I was a fan, because I'm like, oh, holy shit, this sounds a bit like, you know. But yeah, I don't know. And it's not on my
album
list.
Was not Rusty Cage. It wasn't Jesus Christ Pose. This is like a total departure from that album. It's like
right, which I prefer Bad Motorfinger, but I do like this record. This record is on my honorable mentions, by the way.
Yeah, I love Bad Motorfinger too.
Yeah, good pick, man. And and I guarantee you, if we do this again in about 4 or 5 more months, Supernova will be a lot higher on my list.
That album is just a melting pot of genres. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah. And it doesn't even feel like, I think it's about, it clocks in a little bit over an hour.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like it.
You don't feel it.
No.
Just don't. All right, Mike, what's your number 2, sir?
All right, number 2. This was a band and an album that broke big, especially for metal. And this was at a time when things, you know, as far as mainstream and popularity, metal was kind of hurting.
Yeah.
A lot of it, I think, had to do with the fact that, you know, they want to blame grunge or whatever. It's like, no, what happened is the record companies tried to they did cookie cutter a metal movement, and it got to be clones of clones of clones, to where, you know, your first wave of glam metal bands were pretty cool, but after the third or fourth, fifth, sixth wave, it's lighter. It's more about the look than the music, and that's why I tuned out and started listening to thrash metal. And when I wanted something that wasn't thrashy but was still heavy, I gravitated to bands like Tesla and Guns N' Roses at that time. You know, but this band, this album came out in '94. Definitely. And the guy who formed the band was actually in another thrash metal band, Bay Area thrash metal band by the name of Violence. Guitarist Rob Flynn had formed his band Machine Head, debut album Burn My Eyes. Oh, wow. I mean, this was a killer record, man, and was for a long time Roadrunner Records' best-selling album. The best-selling debut album for years, until the release of Slipknot's 1999 self-debut album, or self-titled debut album. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just a killer record. And I have fond memories of this album because I remember when it came out. Now, honestly, for me, when I heard it, I thought, man, this sounds like Pantera meeting Sacred Reich, which is another, they're from the Phoenix area. Sacred Reich, another criminally underrated thrash metal band.
Yeah, they're good. You gave me those.
Oh, they're great. Yeah. And the first time I heard them, I'm like, man, this sounds like. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together because, believe it or not, as much as I was into thrash metal, for whatever reason, Violence went past my radar. I think part of the reason is me living in the area I live even now, but especially back then, it was very rural. Like, I live in the Metro East, the Illinois side of the Metro East St. Louis area. So yeah, I live in an area where it's about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes to St. Louis. But when you're a kid and you don't have your own car, that's a world away. And to be able to get albums like Violence, you wasn't going to get that at the record store, at the mall, or the record store, you know, in the mall, you know, which we had Record Bar and Musicland, and all they did was carry, the major label mainstream stuff. So Violence is one of those bands that at the time went past my radar. I didn't discover them until years later, and then found out, oh yeah, Rob was in this band before he formed this band. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is I was actually a Machine Head fan before I was a Violence fan, which I know is probably fucking like what to a lot of thrash metal enthusiasts, but I got to be honest, I'm not going to lie and pretend like, oh yeah, I knew about Violence all along. When I heard them though, I was like, holy shit, these guys are amazing too. Violence though is kind of different because the way the vocalist sings, man, it's named Sean Kelly and it's very like da-da-da-da-da-da. The only thing I could kind of compare it to is the way Serge Tankian of System of a Down sings, not when he screams, but when he's singing very da, 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 all over the place. That's kind of the way Violence was. So there's some people that dig it or they don't. You either dig Violence or you don't. But back to Machine Head, this album just blew me away. It was the one album that I felt gave Pantera a run for their money. And I saw them support this album opening for Biohazard and Slayer. And it was an amazing show. It's the show I've been talking about through this whole thing, you know. So there you go. I had Biohazard, Slayer, and Machine Head because that I got to see all three bands all at once. And it was a phenomenal show. And yeah, man, love it. Machine Head burned my eyes.
Yeah, I never knew Flynn was in a different band before Machine Head.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good to know because I didn't know that. You know, I know that he was a figure, like a spokesperson for a Machine Head and for you know, not popular thrash, but thrash on the other side. Rob Flynn was the guy, but I didn't know that.
Well, right here it even says stylistically, the album is credited as having bridged the gap between second generation Barry, a thrash metal, Testament, Death Angel, Violence, etc., and the modern day Pantera school of hard knocks. And I agree with that assessment.
And the Violence was like VIO dash.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And the thing about Machine Head though also is they're a band that I love. Like I love the first two records, and then they kind of went into this alternative new metal direction, which I do like some of that stuff, but it just. But then they got back on track with Through the Ashes of Empires and then The Blackening. I mean, they're almost like prog groove metal by that point.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, now, some of the new stuff, like I thought that and Unto the Locust was a good record and even Bloodstone and Diamonds, but I wasn't real big on Catharsis and I haven't really been following what they've been doing since. But so they're kind of a hit and miss band for me. But man, this debut album with Chris Kontos' drumming, fucking badass.
Man, I'm learning a lot from both of y'all today.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm learning some about stuff from you too, man. So it's all good.
My number 2 is a album that flipped my world upside down. This album is one of the most popular albums released in American music. Green Day with Dookie. Just absolutely love this album from top to bottom. They say with so much energy and so much. The lyrics were so poised with so many different types of subjects. And I remember when I had gotten the previous one, Kerplunk, and then and the reason why I knew about them so well was that my friend's brother was a few years older than us, and he was in the music scene down there in Corpus. And I was just talking to him about this because he said back in the day, they would write letters to their favorite bands that were in the Texas area and see if they would come down to Corpus. Well, he wrote Green Day, and Green Day came down to Corpus before Dookie came out. So I wasn't able to go because it was a 21 and up show.
Right.
But, you know, things didn't go that well. They had to shut it down. But still, you know, he was able to bring Green Day down to Corpus, which was a big deal. But I remember when this came out and it blew Kerplunk away because Kerplunk was still kind of. I'm not too sure if y'all are familiar with Kerplunk.
Yeah, I like Green Day. That's on my mentions.
But it was a little bit more on the not very produced that was as well as this one is. So Dookie is my number 2 album on the countdown.
Nice.
Yeah.
Then my number 1, I think you already said it, Stone Temple Pilots, Purple.
Okay.
It's a fucking great band. You know, you got Scott, fucking rules. You got the DeLeo brothers, and you got that drummer. They got a fucking groove, and when they went to this album, it's totally different than the first album. It's like, and you got Vaseline. You got fucking The Big Empty from the Crow soundtrack. You got like Meat Plow. It's like, what is this? This is new. This is cool. This is like metal, punk, and alternative all mixed into one. Kind of like the Soundgarden album where they're blowing genres, even some fucking, what do you call, like Frank Sinatra shit at the end. Or they've done that before, I'm saying, but they would do that. But this is fucking a phenomenal fucking second album by them. It's one of my favorites. I do have that on vinyl also.
Yeah, I think it's one of my favorites. Oh, well, it is my favorite by them.
Yeah,
it truly is. It's a really good album. All right, Mike, we're down to your number one.
That is on my honorable mentions. Dookie. I was never really big on Green Day. My buddy Matt loved him though, and he's the same guy that introduced me to the rest of the Blue album by Weezer. And over time, though, I've gotten to where I respect Green Day a lot more. Once I actually like sat down and listened to some of their stuff, I was like, yeah, they're not bad, man. They're pretty cool, good. I mean, they're not one of my favorites, but I don't be like, oh fuck, turn that shit off if somebody plays it or something, But my number one, we all know what it is. Pantera's Far Beyond Driven.
Yeah,
I mean,
I knew that.
This album. I mean, like I remember when they were saying this is going to be heavier than Vulgar Display, and I'm like, how the fuck is that even possible? And they did it. They did it, man.
They did it differently.
But it was different. It was, but I think that's one thing that was kind of cool about Pantera. If you really look at it, and I'm talking about, I know they had albums before their major label debut and all that, but to me, those were self-produced. They weren't even minor label or smaller label. They were literally produced by themselves. It was a band discovering themselves, trying to find themselves. They tried to be Van Halen clones. I like that early stuff. It's cool. But to me, Cowboys is their first album. And each album from Cowboys was different. Because guess what? Trendkill's different from this one.
Yes, it is.
And I love Trendkill. I know there was like some bad. I loved it. I Pantera to me in the 90s was a very important band because anybody who knows me knows, and I know this isn't a popular opinion, but I felt betrayed by the Black Album when it came out. I was like, because I was one of those guys that was in there fairly early with Metallica, and I'm just like, what is this? This is not that, I was like, what? I mean, and I know it's going to sound silly saying this because it's really unfair to describe this album to what I'm going to describe to. But the only feeling I can tell you that I had is I remember when Kiss Dynasty came out and I was 8-9 years old and I felt betrayed when I heard I Was Made for Loving You. Well, I felt betrayed the first time I heard Enter Sandman. I was like, what is this? This is like weak. This isn't even, and it was like, where the fuck is my thrash? Okay. I'm over it now for the most part. I mean, I recognize there are some good songs on the Black Album. It's still, in my opinion, the beginning of the end creatively for him. Yeah, I know it sold a gazillion copies, but I think, and I refuse to call it the Newsted era of Metallica because, for one, he was on Injustice for All, and I like that record. I think Jason's a phenomenal bass player. I was a fan of his work when Flotsam and Jetsam. I love that band too, but it's the Bob Rock era, and it ended with the thud with Saint Anger, as it should have. Not a fan of Load, not a fan of Reload, not a fan of a lot of that era. And Mark knows this. A lot of people, anybody who knows me knows this. And I mean, if everybody out there, hey, you do you, boo. You like it, cool, but not for me. Pantera, though, was that band that kind of filled that void, if that makes any sense, because a lot of the thrash metal bands, I mean, Anthrax got rid of Joey Belladonna and they got John Bush, who I love in Armored Saint, but it just wasn't the same. They were kind of going in a different direction. Megadeth even followed suit with. Now, I know some people feel Countdown was kind of their Black Album. I don't. I still think Countdown was thrashy enough to where I really like that record, where I feel like they were chasing Metallica's with Euthanasia. And then really out of the big four, the only one that stayed true was Slayer. Whether you like them or not, you cannot deny that they did not They never really strayed. I know some people want to throw Diabolos and Musica in my face. Whatever the fuck. That album's still thrashy. Oh, they sold out. Really? Were they played on every mainstream rock radio station like Metallica? No, they were not. And I don't care what anybody says, whether you love the Black Album. And I understand people younger than me, that was your first probably your first metal album. I understand why you love it. I do. I'm not being unreasonable, but it was a sellout. It was. I don't care. Before they're like, oh, we're not going to do that. Well, they weren't going to do videos at all. And then they do one, which I loved. I was one of those fans that was excited because I'm like, finally, we get to see a Metallica video. But then they made a video for almost every damn single off the album. I mean, come on.
Yeah, they did 5, I think.
Yeah, it's just, and nothing else matters. Yeah, you're right, including their integrity. Can we move on, please? Sorry, Pantera filled that void for me and a lot of other metalheads. I'm just telling you, that's how we felt at the time. I felt Metallica abandoned us. And even so, I mean, look at Load and Reload. They changed their look. They even were going around talking, well, don't call us a metal band and all this bullshit. You don't believe me? I got the magazine covers to prove it, folks. They tried to distance themselves from metal, even though it was intrinsic to their name. And while I may forgive them for that, I haven't forgotten everything. A lot of people just want to give Metallica a pass and try to sweep that era under the rug like it never happened.
Yeah.
Look, bands they're allowed to do whatever they want. I don't have to like it. That's cool. And Metallica was one of those bands that, for whatever reason, no matter what they did, man, it sold like hotcakes, man. It was like people bought it, and they still sell out everywhere they go. So I'll give them that, because there's a lot of bands that tried to do what Metallica did before them, and it didn't work out for them. Kiss's popularity dwindled. Alice Cooper's popularity dwindled. A lot of bands that try to change their sound. There's only a few that I can think of that were able to do whatever the hell they wanted and get by with it. And one of them is Mark's favorite band, Rush. Rush, even though I wasn't really into anything after, I loved Moving Pictures. What's the album after Moving Pictures?
Signals.
Is that the one that's got subdivisions on it?
Yes.
I love that record. And that was it for me, man. Once, what's his name? Terry Brown, the producer, left.
Yeah.
You didn't like Power Window. You didn't like Grace Under Pressure?
No.
Grace Under Pressure was Terry Brown.
Or maybe it was Grace Under Pressure. I can't remember what album it was. It was
Grace Under Pressure.
What's the album after Grace Under Pressure?
Power Windows.
It's Power Windows. That's where they lost me. Yeah, I like Grace Under Pressure. It's not one of my favorites, but it's still like, okay. Because my biggest problem with a lot of those bands from that era was it's not that I hate keyboards. I love Deep Purple. I listen to a lot of Ozzy used keyboards through his entire solo career. Even Sabbath did from Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath on. I'm not anti-keyboard, but when it's so high in the mix and it just overpowers everything and the song is drenched in it, then that's when I have a problem with it. And that's what was my problem with those Rush albums, man. I mean, now do I think Rush sold out? No. Rush did what the fuck they wanted to do. They've always done what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
The record company wanted them to be a Bad Company clone or do this or do that. And what did they do after Crest of Steel? They do 2112. They double down. They triple down on that shit. It was a masterpiece. I'm one of those people, though, that love Caress of Steel. But
I love that album.
Yeah,
I heard it after 2112. I didn't even know about Caress of Steel until way later. But yeah, man. Pantera filled that void that Metallica kind of left for me. And I know I'm speaking for me, and there's other metal fans that feel that way. But like I said, I also know, man, that album, Black Album, sold a gazillion copies. It is what it is. I'll acknowledge that. I'm not blind to it. But for me, it was like, well, I mean, even Rex Brown said it in his book that they were able to fill that void, and they felt like, man, Metallica didn't even really fight for it.
They really didn't.
Well, Phil said something on stage about them. We're the only or something. Metallica left you or something.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I mean, Phil to this day is very vocal about hating Load and Reload. He hates those records, But hey, I mean, whatever, man. Look, Metallica. Just because I'm saying what I'm saying, that doesn't ruin my love for their previous work. I'll always acknowledge them, and I will always be grateful for what they did. I mean, they're and they're not only are they one of the greatest metal bands of all time, but they're probably they're the biggest. I mean, I don't see how you can argue with that, man. So yeah, but yeah, Pantera, man, for that time in the 90s, to me, they were the premier metal band. And it's a shame that we don't have Dime and we don't have Vinny anymore, because I would have loved, because I know in my heart of hearts those guys would have mended fences and got back together way before now. And now I don't consider this a Pantera reunion. To me, this is a Pantera tribute.
Yeah.
And you couldn't have gotten two better guys to do it. I mean, for one, they were both very close to Dime and Vinny, and they're outstanding musicians. I mean, so it's like, I just look at what they're doing as a tribute. Now, if they try to cut a new record and call it Pantera, I would have a problem with that, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I think if they do make another record, they're going to call themselves something else. Maybe they'll call themselves Cowboys from Hell or Domination or whatever. Where do you know it's them without them, you know? But I would
call the band 5 Minutes Alone.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, but this album, and there is one other thing I want to say about it that was phenomenal about. I went to see this tour at the American Theater. Now, the first time I saw Pantera, believe it or not, was in a small club called Club 367, and that was right before Vulgar Display had come out. It was getting ready to come out, and it was just them and a local band. And I mean, dude, I was as far from the band as my television over there. You know what I mean? And it was like a religious experience. And unless you've seen Pantera live, you don't know what I'm talking about. They were one of the greatest live bands I've ever seen. And then I saw them again for this tour. Far Beyond Driven had just come out, man. And we went to the American, and that was a great show because Crowbar opened for them. And it's funny because you can see, I think it's a Revolver or it's something like that. There's a YouTube where this guy asked Kirk a story about Dime, and he mentions about, we were in St. Louis and they were putting this fake snow on us, and while we're playing and we're sweating and it's all sticking to us and start sticking our strings and fucking our shit up, because they were always pulling practical jokes. And I was like, holy shit, I was at that show. I was right in the front in the fucking pit. An amazing show. But what makes it even cooler, now I'd met Pantera before at 367 because my friend Holly was kind of a groupie, so she got me backstage, and I literally got to do a Black Tooth Grant. I didn't even know what the fuck it was, but Dimebag had me drink this drink. Down it, dude. I was like, okay, so I downed it, and we took pictures with him. Unfortunately, Holly has those photos, and me and her have had a falling out a long time ago, so I don't have those photos. But they were really, really cool, down to earth dudes. And then the second time, as I said, I'm in the pit. They're performing Walk, right? Phil throws the microphone out. Nobody catches it, and he gets this bummed look, and he does it again. And it's me and my big brother Dave, scapegoat to anybody who listens to that metal station or to the Metal Mike Show, and myself. And Brian and Dave catch that fucker, and they pull it up. And this is right in the middle of Walk, and we start doing the respect. Walk, what did you say? You know, are you talking to me? No way, punk. Right? That's awesome enough. Like, that's probably one of the most metal moments of my life. Okay.
Right.
What makes it even better is after the show, Phil stood outside, and I mean, there was people all over waiting to get his autograph because it was freezing cold, and he was the only one that came out and hung out with us. And when he saw us, he looks at us and goes, dudes from the front row. And we were like, yeah. And we took photos with him, and I had my CD signed, and just, you know, total class act, man. I said, thanks, Phil. He grabbed, you two, brother, drive home safe, man. Stay metal. I mean, he was just so fucking cool. So, you know, yeah, it's a shame what's happened to him, because, but I am glad they're doing what they're doing, because there's a whole generation of kids that never got to see Pantera, and it's not going to be Pantera, but they should be able to listen to those songs performed live. So I have no problem with them doing what they're doing. I don't think it diminishes or disparages Vinny and Dime's memory in any way. I mean, I know that Phil and Vinny never really got to make peace there. That sucks. I know Phil tried. Vinny wasn't having it, you know, and you know, it sucks, man, but it is what it is, you know, and I do understand why Vinny was upset. I mean, look, I love Phil, but when he was thrown out, he said a lot of horrible fucking things, man. And
yeah, but Phil was also under a lot of chemicals at the time.
That's what I mean. And I'm not saying that gives him an excuse, because when he ran into Rita at a metal festival, she said, Phil, I just want to know why. And he goes, Rita, I have no excuse. I was a fucking junkie. I was fucked up.
He was.
I'm-
He was a junkie.
I'm sorry, you know, that's all I can say is I'm sorry for what it's worth. I'm sorry, you know, and she says, you know, that's all I ever wanted him to say, you know, but with Vinny, it was just like, he just,
Yeah.
also, I think he may have had it in his head because if you read Rex's book, when Rex got to see Dime's body, he just looked and said, see what you did. And it's like, what the fuck did Rex do? It's almost like he blamed Phil and Rex because with them doing Damage Plan, they were pretty much starting all over. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I think
playing little clubs like they did in Ohio.
right. And I think in Vinny's mind, if Pantera hadn't broke up, we would never have been in that situation
Yeah.
for that Maniac, who, by the way, targeted him in Cincinnati. And even from what I understand, tried to target Phil with Down. The guy was nuts. Okay. He was mentally ill.
Yeah.
And why the fuck people let him buy a gun and do all the shit that he did? And people knew he was crazy and delusional. And it's like, oh, so nobody tried to get him any help. Nobody tried to have him, you know, obviously he needed to be admitted for, you know,
Yeah. For some,
just a tragic thing.
yeah, it is. And I've seen Down at least 3 times. And man, Phil still fucking brings it like,
Oh, yeah.
the 90s, man.
And I mean,
I'm going to see the Metallica show on the 27th.
I'm going to see Metallica in November, actually. It's going to be a
Nice.
while for us, man. And it's going to be Metallica and the Pantera tribute reunion thing, whatever you want to call it. And then the
I
other
think
two
I think you're gonna enjoy Wolfgang Van Halen, dude. I see. him.
Mammoth. Yeah, Mammoth will be there. And then the second night, it's
You can stay in the parking lot, and drink beer till they're done.
what Ice Nine Kills and Five Finger Death Punch, which
Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of. But see, believe it or not, I actually saw Five Finger a while back because I went to see Megadeth last year for my birthday, and I wasn't really going to stick around for Five Finger because first time I heard them, I was like, and this is for first time, I'm like, yeah, watered down Pantera, yeah, they're all right. Well, I have to say, number one, they sounded great live, and my nephew who is into them, and you know, he's younger than me.
Yeah.
He was just like, they're not like that, Uncle Mike. You know, they've changed their sound. And I have to say, hearing the new songs that they played, because they didn't really play a lot of the stuff from the first album, very almost power metal, almost rah-rah metal, very, you know, which I know they do a lot. They sing a lot of songs about the military, and they do a lot for our military. And for that, I have to give them props, man, you know. And I mean, you can't deny their popularity. You know, and my attitude about it, even if it's a band I'm not really into, if you got a bunch of young people and they're throwing the horns and they're getting into metal, everybody has their gateway band. Mine was Kiss. Okay. So, you know, and there's a couple of bands in my honorable mentions that I feel are gateway bands that some people shit all over, but I'm like, you know, say what you want. But I know people that got into bands because you know, they got into metal or harder music because of certain bands. So anyway, man, I kind of rambled. That's what I do, though. I go off on tangents, so I apologize.
I really enjoyed. You know, I can go on and on about music myself. So
yeah, dude, I'm very passionate. Film, music, comics. I'm a geek, man.
Yeah.
You know, science fiction, fantasy, horror, you name it. I'm into
when it comes to Down, I saw Down. The first time I saw them, I think it was during the Metallica Death Magnetic tour, which was because I'm a fan of Death Magnetic. I'm not a fan of the Black and the Load and Reload and.
Oh, you didn't like Black Album either?
Nuh-uh. It took
really.
I really did it.
I got a kindred spirit. See, I just figured since you were younger than me that maybe you know, how old are you, bro? If you don't mind.
Oh man, yeah. I'm about to be 49.
Okay, I'm 52. I'll be 53 in October. So we're part of the same generation. But there's a few years there, you know.
I'm going to be 49 in December.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll be 53 in October. Good Lord.
So we're not that far apart.
Right.
But I'm a big Death Magnetic fan. I love Death Magnetic.
Well, that was definitely a step in the right direction. I'll give it that.
Sometimes it feels like they're trying too hard. It doesn't feel as authentic as it did the first 4 albums.
Well, I don't know if it ever will be, though, because they're not those guys anymore.
No,
I mean, that you know, it's so it's like, you know,
things change.
Right, sure. But yeah, man, for me, as I said, I could talk about music and all that stuff all night, man. But yeah, Pantera is a very, very important band to me. And I know a person who listens to both our podcasts and the radio show probably follows what you do, Andy. James West loves him some Pantera, man. So James, this is my number 1 pick, goes out to you, bro.
Nice. My number one. It's already been talked about by Mark. I think he's already figured out because I haven't touched on this album yet. But it is going to be that's Vitology
Yeah.
by Pearl Jam. And there's something about when there's so much strife going on in a band when they make this album.
Hello, Fleetwood Mac.
Yes, there was a lot of not fighting, but things weren't going very well. And in fact, they even changed drummers in the middle of recording this album. Mike McCready had to go to rehab for cocaine and alcohol during this album. And Eddie Vedder kind of took over the reins of being the leader of the band, which is something he didn't do in the first two albums. And Stone Gossard kind of took a step back from his role of being the band leader. So there was a lot of changes going on inside the band, inside the recording studios of this album. And that's why I think that this album turned out the way
This is their third record, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's their third record. And the songs on here are just so amazing. Even the rock collage that is done on side 2, it's different from anything that was going on at that time. So yeah, Vitology is my number one.
A band that came from Mookie Blaylock.
Yeah, a band from Mookie Blaylock. Yeah. And then of course, Mother Love Bone, and now Pearl Jam. I've seen them.
Yeah.
I'm not as much as I wish that I had, but I've seen them a couple of times. But each time were phenomenal. The second time I saw them was during the New Orleans Jazz Festival when we went down to New Orleans.
Each show they could play like 5 consecutive dates, and each show is different.
It's different, yeah.
You talk about Kiss has to have those lights for their. They don't need that shit. They just get out there and jam.
Yeah,
they're like Cheap Trick, man. Cheap Trick does the same shit.
And they alternate lyrics, or they just make words up and tries to fit things in for the moment. It's so cool, man. But we have reached our point. So my number one was Vitology by Pearl Jam. Number one for Mark was Purple by Stone Temple Pilots. And number one for Mike there was Pantera, Far Beyond Driven. Even the album cover for Far Beyond Driven is pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic album. Good choices. So let's just run through our memorable mentions. Mark, what are yours?
Well, I had Aria Monster. Great freaking album by them. 9 Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral. Love that fucking album. Megadeth, Euthanasia. I did like that album. Live, Throwing Copper, and Green Day, Dookie.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I got a bunch, man. Caius, Welcome to Sky Valley.
That's a good one.
Josh Homme went on to do Queens of the Stone Age, and the other dudes went on to do other things. One Mark mentioned, Beastie Boys, Ill Communication, Soundgarden.
Was Caius more of a jam stoner rock band?
Yeah.
It's stoner metal, yeah. Where Queens of the Stone Age is more stoner rock, Caius is more stoner metal, but very cool, man. Weezer, the Blue Album. I mean, Pride and Glory, Zach's Wild's first post-Ozzy project. Almost Southern rock, really cool though. The Black Crowes, Amorica.
I
Alice
forgot that one.
Yeah,
what
right?
the fuck is wrong with me?
I know, because I know you love some Black Crowes.
God dang, I would have replaced that with fucking Oasis, big time.
Alice in Chains, Jar of Flies,
Charles.
STP Purple, Merciful Fate, Time, Motley Crue's 94, the Korn debut. I know Korn gets a lot of hate, and part of me gets it, but those first 3 records, man, when I first heard Korn, I was just like, whoa, this is different. It was really heavy. Me being the Black Sabbath freak, I like that really thick, heavy stuff. And like I said, it got old quick. Like, I liked the first 3 records, but after that, it was almost like they became the AC/DC of new metal. And what I mean by that, and I love AC/DC, but AC/DC, especially with Brian Johnson, I would say after Flick of the Switch, it became not bad. I don't sit there and go, man, that sucks. But it's just like, kind of going through the motions here, boys. Now, with that being said, I still like a lot of Brian Johnson albums after Flick of the Switch, but that's kind of how I feel about Korn. Korn just, they lost me after the 3rd record. But
album cover,
But the first three, and it was just different. It was just totally different, man. And you got to, I mean, they kind of created their own subgenre of metal. You may like it, you may hate it. I know a lot of dudes do. I don't like all of it. There's some bands I wouldn't, but I did like the first three Korn albums. So I figured the debut album, and it was a game changer. Just like some of the other bands on our list, whether you like them or not, you got to acknowledge their impact. As I said, I mentioned Super Unknown by Soundgarden, Helmet by Betty by Helmet. I mean, just fucking Acid Bath, When the Kite String Pops, really cool sludge metal, weird, man, really, really weird stuff. Marilyn Manson, Portrait of an American Family, Queensryche, Promised Land, very underrated record.
Oh, I like that album. Man.
I love that album, but
Great
and
album.
I mean, it sold, but it wasn't as successful as Promised Land. It's like
that's with I Am I, right on there.
Yeah, yep.
That song fucking rules.
I like that album. I do. It's not as heavy as maybe Operation Mindcrime or even parts of Empire, but I do like it.
I think Here in the Now Frontier was their last great album.
I agree, Mark.
Yeah. Until they got Todd. Those last four were awesome. So there you go.
So yeah, man, that's my honorable mentions. I'm sure I'm probably forgetting a few, but yeah, that's it.
Well, that Amorica one threw me for a loop. So Motley Crue 94 goes to honorable mentions. Amorica goes to number 9.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So
it was hard, dude, because some of the ones on my honorable mentions, man, I'm like, man, I ought to just put that on the list. But then the more I thought about it, I just started thinking about my experiences in 1994 and what was going on. And I mean, I don't mean to sound egocentric, but what was going on in Mike's world and what was real. And this was it. I mean, it was these bands. I was going to see them, a lot of them live. And that's, and as much as I love all kinds of music, hard rock and heavy metal will always be my first love. So to me, it was just like, these were the albums that were really, in my wheelhouse at the time.
You said Amorica, and I was like, fuck. Because that album I fucking had a lot of fun with during 1994.
Oh yeah, and all these honorable mentions,
some
most
weed,
of them.
Getting high to that album. Yeah,
dude, I got fucked up to every one of these albums except for Motley Crue 94.
Yeah, that's why I took Motley Crue out and put Amorica in there. I never got fucked with the Motley Crue.
As I said, I don't want to be like, I'm not going to be like, well, yeah, because like I said, by that point in time, I wasn't really following what Motley Crue was doing anymore. I just have to be honest about that, But I mean, it's kind of, in some ways, I think some Crue fans are bummed out that it didn't succeed because Vince was doing pretty good with his solo stuff. And I think some fans would have wanted Vince to keep doing the solo stuff and that version of Crue to keep going. Kind of like what you had with Black Sabbath and Ozzy, I mean.
Almost to a lesser extent, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. A lesser extent. Yeah.
Solo album with Steve Stevens is fire.
Yeah.
Well, Exposed? Was that his debut album, Exposed?
Yeah. You're invited, but your friend can't come. And that had Tommy Shaw and Jack Blade singing background, and they think they co-wrote it with him.
My honorable mentions, we're going to go with Beastie Boys' Ill Communication. This one was a fantastic album, too. Veruca Salt, American Thighs.
I almost
Didn't they get their name from a character from Willy
Wonka,
Wonka, right? The girl, the brat.
Yeah. Veruca Salt.
That the one with Seether on it?
Yeah.
I love that song.
Helmet by Betty by Helmet.
It's a great album.
Yeah, it's really good.
No, I remember I got Meantime, and then I never got any other album by them. I was done.
Yeah. Helmet. I'm sorry. R.E.M. Monster. Dave Matthews Band, Under the Table and Dreaming. Tom Petty, Wildflowers.
Oh, shit. I forgot that one.
Yeah. That
was fuck. Bye-bye, Stone Temple Pilots. Tom Petty's number 1.
But realistically, would you kick Stone Temple Pilots off, or would you kick the bottom song?
I would pick off. I would kick Offspring out for
Offspring,
and then move it up, and then Tom Petty would be number 1 over Stone Temple. Everything would go down 1.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. I put Wildflowers number 1.
16 Stones by Bush. I think when Bush came out, they were so good. I liked them.
I like that album.
Not
no
for me,
need
man.
to argue by the Cranberries. Neil Young, Sleeping with Angels. I didn't put that, on my top 10 because I love Neil Young, but that album did not compare to what was going on at that time with the top 10 that I did talk about. Sponge with Rotting Pinata. That's a really good guitar heavy.
I like
album.
Sponge.
Yeah. And Amorica by Black Crowes, of course. And don't laugh, guys, because I really liked this album. And in fact, this is number 19 on the most sold albums in American history.
Oh, now I'm very intrigued. Who?
It went 19 times platinum. And I love this album. Hootie and the Blowfish, Cracked Rear View.
Well, that movie.
All right, man. My co-host Bill loves Hootie and the Blowfish.
The tone of the voice, I can't handle it.
You can't.
Can't handle Darius Rucker's voice.
Oh, well, guys, that concludes our show. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Andy. It was an honor.
Oh, man. Well, thanks for saying yes. It's always great when you are on here. I really enjoy your stories and you talking about music because we're pretty different with the different types of music we listen to. So when I hear you talk about your type of different music, I learn stuff from you, and I love
that's
that.
Cool, man. Cool. Yeah. Well, hey, same here, man. Because there's some things like I'm going to check out the Smoking Popes, man, and I'm going to check out Sponge, and
Rotting Pinata, really good.
Because I know you like a lot of hard rock and metal too. You like, and I mean, like I said, a lot of people though they assume that this is all I listen to. It's not. I love all kinds of music. I can sit here and talk to you about Beethoven, and then turn right around and tell you about Carcass, which Phoebe mentions in Friends, which is hilarious.
You like Friends, Mike?
Yeah, I do actually.
Right on.
I do like that show.
It's not a chick show, is it?
No,
because the three guys in there are pretty crass and.
Well, I'm like a chick show. No, I don't see it as a chick.
It's not Sex in the City, man.
But what the?
I never said Sex in the City. I just said it was a chick show.
You call
Chandler and Monica, when they were planning their wedding, Phoebe says you should book the heavy metal band Carcass. Well, Carcass is like this death metal band. They're like really, really heavy, and I do love that stuff. But I can talk to you about that, and I can talk to you about all the newer metal, but I can also turn around and talk to you about the Beatles or Roy Orbison or even Dean Martin, Mozart. I love all kinds of music, man.
Dean Martin's my spirit, man.
Well, I don't know if you know this about Dean Martin's daughter. When she met Elvis, he looked at her and said, "Girl, I may be the king of rock and roll, but your dad is the king of cool." And I was like, that is awesome. Because Dean Martin was the king of
Dean
cool.
Martin rules.
I loved him.
My favorite of the rap.
Mine too. Mine too, Mark. There you go.
Well, dude, he always has a glass of whiskey in his hand.
Yeah.
Come on, man. That's my guy.
Yeah, he's just so fucking cool, though, man.
I don't think he remembered doing Cannonball Run is what it looked like to me.
I love that movie. Yeah, I love him and Martin and Lewis, and I loved it when they appeared in The Road to Hong Kong, where Bob Hope tells him, "This ain't your picture, get out of here."
But I always like Jerry Lewis by himself more than with him.
Oh, really? I loved them together, but I think they were great separate though too.
They were, yeah.
I believe it or not, I saw a really cool. My dad showed it to me when I visited him a while back. It was a really cool documentary about Dino, and they had all kinds of people talking about, including Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age and Caius. I was like, cool, man. So he was quite a guy, man. But him and Jerry, it was weird because there was definitely it was like a brotherly, big brother, little brother relationship, But I think they both did great on their own and together, if that makes any sense. Like I like the stuff they did, when they went solo, but I love the stuff they did together too.
Hey, some Facebook user said it's a chick show. LOL.
Right, Friends? I don't know. I think Sex in the City or that one HBO.
Sex in the City is a fucking chick show.
Oh, totally. Or what about that one show that was literally called Girls? Those are chick shows. I mean. Friends
had three guys who were fucking like misogynistic as fuck.
Yeah, but they overdid it.
And the women would be talking about sex.
I liked it. I mean, I like How I Met Your Mother. I love WKRP.
I love How I Met Your Mother.
I love a lot of great sitcoms.
I love man. Barney rules.
Cheers, Frasier, All in the Family. Mary
yeah.
Tyler
Oh,
Moore
it's
show.
Jerry saying it was a chick show. Fuck you, Jerry.
I don't know if I agree with that, but hey, it's everybody's opinion, you know. I don't really give a fuck. I mean, I don't think it's a chick show. If it was all chicks, then it would be a chick show.
I have all 10 seasons in the closet right there, man.
And
Love
my
Friends.
my buddy Big B, huge fan of that show.
And
I'm more of a casual fan, but I did think it was
Seinfeld
cool
also.
because I think some of the writers were obviously metal heads or fans. Because if you remember, Phoebe's little brother had a Motorhead shirt, Anthrax.
That was Giovanni Ribisi.
I know,
Yeah, it
but
was.
I'm
Love him.
just saying, man. And then the fact that she said you should book the heavy metal band Carcass, and she got all pissed because they wouldn't. I thought that was hilarious. I got the joke. I don't know if anybody else did, but I did.
Jerry says, "What's up, guys?"
Hey, Jer, what's going on, brother?
I wish he was going to be able to be on this. I did ask him, but he wasn't able to be on.
Yeah,
But thanks
'cause-
you guys so much. Catch me tomorrow on the BS sessions with Mark and Jerry and Charles Trainer, where we are going to be doing a vinyl battle along with Joseph Staub. But we are going to be doing, excuse me, I'm sorry, Holy Diver by Deal versus Blizzard of Oz.
Damn, dude, that's a tough one. I know where I'm going to land, though.
We're going to be doing track by track, all 9 songs.
Man,
We
that's
are gonna go
brutal.
at it. So that's going to be
I
pretty
mean,
cool.
You're talking about 2 amazing debut albums.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, Jerry came up with that, man. That's an
Yeah.
amazing battle, Jerry. Good
Yeah,
job.
Jerry, you ain't fucking around, are you, dude?
You ain't fucking around with that one because I put it in an 80s metal group, like almost 200 comments going Ozzy Dio, Ozzy Dio.
Oh.
Both. I can't decide. Ozzy Dio.
Right?
It's like a big topic on that, man.
He says I'm invited.
You're invited if you want to come, Mike. He just
You know,
invited
I
you.
might take you up on that. What time is it?
6 p.m. Same time as this show tonight.
8 o'clock Central.
Yep.
Man, it's going to be hard, though, track by track.
Yeah. I did my list already. I'm done.
I did mine too.
Yeah. All right, man. I'll see what I can do, man. I'll see.
And also next week on the Black Spinner Circle, we are going to be doing the Beatles White Album. What song? You know, we always talk about the White Album's too long. It should have been shorter. So the topic is, what songs would you take out of the White Album?
Oh, that's so easy.
Joining me on that one will be Charles Trainer, and Kate Doré will be on that show. And anyone else that wants to be on that, it'll be next Wednesday. We are going to be doing What Will You Take Out of the White Album?
Let me think about that, man.
I gotta decide. I gotta see my work schedule. I'm going back
Because
to
that's
work
an
next
interesting question. Because the White Album's probably my favorite Beatles album, even though it is got a lot of extra stuff on it. I love that record.
I love that record. I don't know what I would take out because I think it's perfect the way it is. But you know, every double album, people say, "Well, it'd be a lot shorter. It'd be better if it was a lot shorter." But what would you take out of the White Album? I don't know.
Revolution number 9.
I don't know. Revolution number 9 has really grown on me throughout the years.
Oh,
And you know that. Yeah, I like that album. All right, guys. Mike,
All right.
I'll keep you posted on the White Album. If you don't mind, I'll give you a reminder later on.
Just hit me up, man. I'll
And
see.
let-
I'll try to think about
I gotta
it.
see if my schedule's the same next week because I don't know. Somebody's leaving that area, and I might get my schedule back. So I don't know.
All right.
All
All right, guys. Thanks a lot, everybody out there. Thanks for watching.
Stay metal, everybody. Andy, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, yeah. Of course, Mike. Thank you so much for
All right.
saying yes. And Jerry, we'll see you tomorrow, brother. All right.
And Mike,
We'll see you tomorrow.
message me if you want to be on.
On for tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
All right.
All right.
All
Bye.
right, guys.
Later, guys.
There, guys. Bye.